parking in this lot on that day beginning at 5 a.m. This is the same as we've had the past few years.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion?
I can assume that Dakota Wesleyan Homecoming's then September 30th, maybe? Doesn't
Right.
say that, but that's when they're going to have their parade.
I would assume. Okay. No discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. Next, First Dakota National Bank, located at 500 East Norway, requests no parking zones on both the east and west driveways to the bank, with no parking 25 feet on either side of the driveways. The driveways are located on the north side of Norway Avenue there. They just
Linda, do
want-
we have any restrictions now on parking
We don't.
close
It's,
to a driveway or not?
no, it's usually if they make a request, we usually go with 25 feet, and several businesses have come in. They've noticed a problem in that area lately, and that's why Lance is requesting this. We have 25 feet back from an intersection, but not from private driveways unless they specially request it. So,
And we've done.
some of them, they don't have any problem, because they just don't have much for parking, but we have done this for other businesses.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. Third, Dave Epp requests a parade permit for the 5th Annual Neil Epp Memorial Poker Run. The event is on Saturday, June 24th, with a 12:30 p.m. start. The parade will begin at Clockworks, located at 915 South Kimball Street, and travel west on Havens to the west end of town.
Same as before.
I don't know if this is the exact same route? Yeah. Same or similar route, but yeah, we've worked with them good all the other years, so.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. 4, the Corn Palace Stampede Rodeo Committee requests a parade permit for the rodeo parade scheduled for Saturday, July 15, 2017, beginning at 10:30 a.m. In preparation for the parade, the Corn Palace Stampede Rodeo Committee requests at the beginning at 4:30 a.m. no vehicles be allowed to park on either side of the street along the parade route, as well as the area on Main Street that's used to line up the parade entries. This would encompass the following: Main Street from 12th Avenue south to 7th, 7th Avenue west to Raleigh Street, Raleigh Street south to 6th Avenue, 6th Avenue east to Main, Main Street south to 1st, 1st Avenue east to Lawler, and Lawler Street north to 7th.
Stephanie, I did read where we were going to redo the streetscape in 2 phases now, and was this anticipating to be completed by now?
Main Street should be done by June 15th.
So we won't have to,
You won't have to reroute the parade. They
Right.
originally were going to do 6th Avenue first and then Main Street and break that up into 2, but the contractor wants to condense the timeline. So they're going to start with Main Street after graduation this weekend, and then they'll move into the other one.
okay, then I would just state that we should just go 12th to 1st to Lawler, east on, we won't need Raleigh Street. We won't have to reroute or anything else. Right, or did they specifically request this, Cindy, do you know?
Do you want to approve it as is, just in case the construction schedule doesn't?
I suppose if we can do either or,
Yeah,
yeah,
because you could always say, well, we're not going to do it.
right. If you want to approve, we can do Main Street or use Raleigh Street, either one. So I would amend that motion to be able to use Main Street or Raleigh regardless.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to go ahead and approve it from Main Street, and we need to use Raleigh.
Okay,
Second.
motion to second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion's carried. 5th, the Heart and Soul Cancer Walk Run Board of Directors would like to request the City of Mitchell close 8th Street from Minnesota Street to Iowa Street and Cadwell entrance to 8th Street on Friday, June 16, 2017, from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. for the Cancer Walk Run event. Similar to last year, or several other years.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion's carried. Next, we have a request to change 2nd, 3rd, and 4th Avenue from one-way traffic to two-way traffic from Raleigh Street to Lawler Street only. We did do some checking on this. We're anticipating it would be about $1,000 worth of signs, approximately $900 to $1,000 worth of labor. So right around $2,000 to make the change.
You see any safety issues?
No, I think as long as we get it signed correctly, streets are all wide enough, and it's just the downtown corridor. We may have to make some adjustments after everything's up and going if we see problems, but this gives us signage. We're going to have to do it half a block or so in anticipation, stating that their one-way ends or two-way traffic ends, and everything's going to have like a pre-notice on it. That's where the additional signing's coming.
The, like on Third and, over by the theater, you've got flashing lights.
Mm-hmm.
Will you put those on there to draw people's attention to it? Because it'll be a change if it's passed.
Be a lot of them. What do you think, Dick?
I don't know if we really want to start doing that. I mean, we can flag them for a short period of time like we have in other places, but I don't know if we want to start adding flashing lights to everything we change.
Could you put an oversized stop sign there instead of the regular one you have now?
Yeah, we can do 36 inch.
What is that, what do we have now, 25?
30,
30.
30, and unless it's a busy street, and that if it isn't that, then we've already changed a lot of them up to 36 already.
Cost isn't that anything extra, is there?
Well, there's some added cost, yes. Yep.
Currently, there's wrong-way signs on the back of the stop signs. We're talking about going
Do not enters.
oversized do not enter signs. That's part of this cost estimate.
What's the advantage of doing this, of creating confusion over what's a one-way and not a one-way for just a couple, 3 blocks?
Yeah, it was a request from
Me.
Dave.
We've heard numerous comments from the downtown businesses. One is we're starting, we want to build up the downtown businesses. We're hearing from downtown businesses that people are confused by which street to turn, which way to get to what business. And so if it hinders that business, I looked at, well, how many businesses are affected? So I got that list from Jen. And there's a lot of people that are affected, but not as many residentials. And one of the things that I said before I would submit this is, I live on Third. I was not a proponent of the one-way or the two ways back when we voted on it, and I'm still not in the residential side.
Right.
But to support the business side, 1 block on either side of Main, and, we're trying to beef up everything, then maybe this is a good thing. And I think we have several people here tonight that might want to tell you specifically how it's good for their business. Someone else wants to speak to
Anybody
it?
else that would like to comment on this?
Hello, Jen Johnston, Mitchell Main Street and Beyond. Last week, we discussed this within our development committee and then brought it to our board of directors on Wednesday, and we are unanimously in support of this change to the business owners downtown as well as tourism traffic. It's a nightmare when folks come in, and it's sad when I hear the stories about, well, we didn't shop those stores because I was lost and I didn't want to turn this way, I didn't want to turn that way. And it was also brought to our attention last week as well that our city garbage trucks are going down the wrong ways anyway. I know it was approved and it's okay, but they're going the wrong way. So and they know the streets, they know the one ways, they know how to do it. So it's just best for all of our businesses down there. We do have a few rental facilities that are on 2nd and 3rd. They can't rent them out. No one wants to come and start a new business, and already they don't even have two-way traffic right there. So that's dampering a few of those folks as well on 2nd and 3rd. I do have a couple others here in support. I don't know if they want to say anything, but I'll let them make that decision.
Jen, you send this out to all of your members. I know you
Yep.
indicated you're going to send out an email. Was there any negative comments coming back?
The only comments I got were I called my councilman or woman. Other than support for it. So
Right,
I
that's
didn't
what I
personally
mean.
have any negative. We do have 98 member businesses. They're not all downtown. We're Mitchell Main Street and beyond. But then all of the affected businesses on there, if we had contact information, we reached out to those folks as well, members or not. This affects them drastically. And I have not heard any hisses in regards to it
So
for those 2 blocks.
I guess why wouldn't, if we're going to do this, why wouldn't we go to Sanborn Street where there's kind of a logical, stoplight or
Main
whatever,
thoroughfare, right.
As opposed to now all of a sudden I have to turn by James Valley or.
Yep, that was some of the discussion we had in our development committee meeting last week is, why don't we do it from Kimball to Sanborn? Well, we need to make this happen, and it was because of the residential district, is we know that in the past, it got voted down just due to the residents. Businesses are in favor of it, and the only residents that this would affect would be the apartments upstairs in some of those buildings, but there's no single-family homes that would be effective, to my knowledge, with just this 2-way street. If you went beyond from Kimball to Sanborn, there are about 42 residential residences that would be effective, and that does count some of those 12 plexes, I think, that are in there.
So we're doing
Multi-units.
this mainly for the tourists because people in town obviously know you have to.
Tourists, yes, but tourists don't all shop downtown. We have folks that come in from 50 miles of here that shop downtown.
And they can't figure out they have to go around the block?
It's very confusing. Have you ever been to a town when you don't know where you're going, yet you're trying to find a spot?
Minneapolis.
Yeah, it's a nightmare.
And where you can see where
Sioux
you want
Falls.
to go, but you can't get there. No, I
Right.
absolutely understand, yeah.
Absolutely. My latest comment was a group of ladies came from Garrettson on a bus group, and they made a few pit stops along downtown, and they couldn't find where Bonnie's Decor was. Well, they went around, and they went around here, and they went on 3rd. No, they went up on 4th. And anyway, they almost turned the wrong way on the street, and they said, bag it. They went to the depot for lunch. So, sorry, Hank, but they still supported downtown by eating at the depot, but that's a lot of business that could have been lost right there. That's just one.
And of course, yeah.
A while back, I proposed that we have stop signs at 3rd and Lawler. And I proposed a 4-way stop because we got people driving the wrong way all the time anyway. So if we'd have had a stop sign there to protect some of those who are crossing the street. 3rd Avenue is the only street you cannot access from Main Street. And we've become a destination for a lot of folks out of Sioux Falls, all around. And because of that, they come to town and they hear about us, somebody told them about us, they need to get there, but they get confused. And I think it'd be a lot easier if folks could run both ways on all the streets, but especially ours. I think we lose business because of that. We're not fortunate enough to be on Main Street. And I've been to other cities, and I notice when I go downtown, I don't have that tendency to look off on the side streets too often. And if I see something and there's a one-way and I see it over there, I may not go around the block to check it out. But if I could turn, drive by, see what it is, I'd probably do it. We strongly would be in favor of that. And I still like that stop sign.
Maybe we ought to put it another block to the east to go to Kimball.
I will tell you that, that the discussion at the Board of Directors meetings, and I know that our statement is that we support this, I'm the liaison, but they support this, but unanimously, I would say, in that Board of Directors, the sense was that to go further, to take it to Sanborn and to take it to Kimball. And the most recent comments I've received from people in the community are, why don't we go to Burr? But I think at least this is a beginning point. It's a baby step in the right direction. But in my utopian view, I would say it would be nice if we could extend it a little further and have it go up minimum Sanborn to Kimball, just because I understand what you're saying, Mel. It seems, we still have businesses that go beyond. We have the courthouse, we have First Lutheran Church, Jen has a list of those businesses that are along, law offices and library, yeah, some of those other places that would benefit from two-way traffic if we did extend it. But that said, this is a good place to start, I suppose.
Mayor Jerry Toomey. I want to make it perfectly clear here to start with that I'm not here tonight to speak in either for or against the proposal on the two-way streets, but I do want to make a couple of comments for you to at least consider. And first of all, this is not a new or a novel idea. And I would only like to remind the committee and the city council that the conversation I am now hearing is exactly what the conversation was and how it began 5 years ago. Then we were only talking about one block then too, on one block either side of Main Street. Suddenly the conversation evolved to Burr, to include Sanborn, and then it took another evolution and went one more step, and we were talking about Foster all the way to Ullman. Then came the referendum. And in view of a 63% vote against the two-way 5 years ago, I don't know that the public will once again be skeptical of the intentions of the committee tonight or the council and see this as a single step with a master plan to convert all the one-ways again from Ullman to Foster. And I'm kind of hearing that tonight already. But you may be inviting another referendum. And I am already getting emails and calls, and I got several of them this afternoon. The question I am hearing is, did our city council not pay attention to the last vote? I would also suggest for council consideration the possibility of retaining the expertise of a transportation or a traffic engineer to study not just the feasibility of applying sound principles of traffic engineering for our one-way streets, but to perhaps even develop a master plan for all of our city streets. To this end, traffic engineers think in terms of safety and efficiency. One of the greatest obstacles a professional traffic engineer faces in applying sound principles of traffic engineering is the fact that everyone is a traffic expert. The unfortunate result of this attitude of expertise is the creation of traffic hazards when false theories of individuals or groups are put into effect. This is not to say that changing these three one-ways is a good idea or a bad idea. I'm suggesting possibly the consideration of seeking this expertise of a traffic engineer because it might end up with a positive result if the idea to convert these streets is truly a good idea. It would go a long ways to persuade the 63% who voted against this plan 5 years ago as being a plan that has merit. It may avoid the likelihood of another referendum. I, for one, would support the recommendations from a professional traffic engineer, either in support of or against the two-way proposal. As a final note, I would also like to suggest, as per 5 years ago, that this issue be voted on by full council. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Blake Sabers. I'm representing my wife's store, Tickled Pink, between 2nd and 3rd Street. We're for the two-way change. We're just representing one of the businesses. We're fortunate to have a decent parking lot behind ours. And like busy Saturdays, if Main Street's full, it's kind of hard to tell people you got to go all the way around, go around the theater, come back down 3rd Street, and there still may not be parking on 3rd. And that's the only way really to get into our back parking lot. We just think it'd be easier, from Sanborn or what have you, to get into our back parking lot and just mainly Saturday traffic. I mean, it can get pretty busy down there. I think it would help everybody out. And from what we've heard, it seems like a majority of the people in that area are all for the two-way streets also. So, thank you.
I'm Terry Cook, got the Cornerstone Coffee House. And the biggest point is off of Main Street, as Hank mentioned. And we're really dealing with 3rd, if you really think about it. 3rd is busy. It is really busy. there's a lot of people that do go the wrong way, and I do think it's kind of funny the garbage truck does go the wrong way. I watch that pretty regular. So there's a problem there, and I'm sure we're losing business because of it, because we're a quick stop place coming from all directions. People don't want to really drive around the block to pull up. They run in, grab a cup of coffee, and leave. And we don't have a drive-up system. So there's no question that we're losing on the deal. So if you sit back and really look at it, what we're really ending up talking about here a lot is Third. And if we could just have a couple blocks like dealing with Main Street, I think would solve a lot of issues. I really do. You got the bank. I see people pulling in the bank the wrong way. They go in and pull into the bank. They've probably been banking there for years, but they still do it. They don't pay a lot of attention to Hank's signs, you know? And that's a big point. So as we sit back and look at it, Third is really the issue. The other two streets can at least get off Main Street. We can't.
So Jen, you've polled your numbers down Main Street, the majority wants this.
And Terry brings up a very good point, is on 2nd and 4th, you can go down Main Street and turn.
I can understand your reasoning, but the majority of the people that everybody that contacted me today and since they saw this come out was that I can't believe the council's going to consider this again after we voted on it. And I do have to say that, they were disappointed that it was being even discussed again. So just throwing that out there.
Yeah, I just want to say a couple of things. I'm not on the committee, but I do agree the whole council should be acting on this, and we will when it gets to committee reports. But first of all, the garbage trucks, of course, are one-armed bandits. So the choice is either to have them go down the wrong way or to have the property owners take things across the street and then leave all their garbage in front of other property owners, and we've decided we don't want to do that. So to me, it would be a little different if the garbage trucks were still manned by the guys and just out of laziness they did it. So I don't want the public to get the idea that that's the case. The traffic commission idea, I understand the mayor bringing that up. I don't like that because I live on a one-way street, 3rd Street, and I love it. And I think a traffic commissioner would say, make it a two-way street. Honest to God. And people voted they don't want that. So perhaps the thing to do is to do this limited area. I absolutely understand about 3rd Street. I think part of the issue with Cornerstone specifically too is parking. I'm not sure, a two-way street is going to increase the business because there's not a lot of parking there unless, kind of fudge it and go into the bank lot there. But, this would be something to try, and after hearing Dave's a rationale about keeping it out of the residential areas, we're talking about Main Street vitalization all the time. Is it really going to undo the will of the people if we give them a couple of blocks where, I realize there's apartment dwellers, but where nobody lives?
I think it needs to be clear that there is no master plan that I've heard from anybody that says we want to convert these things across town. And like I said, living on 3rd Street as I do, living on 3rd, guess what? If it came up, I'd vote no. But I will support the one block on either side of Main Street.
I just have to question, and Lyndon, I think you're probably the better one to ask this than anyone. Do you have any concerns for this being more confusing for people, being able to go 2 directions on 2 blocks, 3 blocks, and then once you get to the, Raleigh or you get to Lawler, it then switches to one-way traffic? That's my big concern.
Right.
And
If you're going to approve it, I would recommend that you also authorize stop signs on Raleigh and Lawler at Second, Third, and Fourth, both sides. So they have to come to a complete stop before as they transition. And we'll try and get our posting on both sides of the roadway with bigger signs and paint the pavement.
Because that really concerns me, and I
Rather
know
than
what
just
it's like.
free-flowing traffic, I think just put stop signs at all of them, and so they have to come to a complete stop as they approach the transition. Yes. Yep. Yep. So I would just ask that if you do it, you make it that part of it.
And I want to say that Mitchell is certainly not the only city that has two, one-way traffic. You get into Sioux
Sure.
Falls, there's some one-way traffic areas. You get
Yep.
into Sioux City, that's the same way. You get into Minneapolis, same way.
And we have places in town here where it transitions from two-way to one-way right now.
Right.
It's not a
Straight off
downtown
the
area,
bypass.
but it does. It does. And there's no stop signs there. It's just straight on driving. You got to see the sign. Foster, there's stop signs. Yep. Yep. Clay?
So my name is Clay Loneman, and the reason why I came down here today is because I read this in the paper, and I understand it the way that you guys are saying it with the businesses downtown. But in my neighborhood, I had a bunch of people contact me today and say that they're worried that this is going to become a bigger issue, like everybody has been saying. As this, in particular with the downtown setting, I didn't have anybody have any problems with it. But when it got outside and into the residential areas, when you were talking about bringing it towards Sanborn or getting further than Kimball, people had issues with it. So I think most people wouldn't have issues with keeping it downtown. But like you said, you got to keep it in that limited scope. You can't start thinking about major things again like the mayor brought up. So I don't know if you guys want to take that into account, that I had people contact me and tell me to come talk to you about it, but
Well, Dave bounced it off me, and I guess my one suggestion was just like we talked about, is the business owners back 5 years ago was in favor of converting because of just their area. They didn't have any concern with the residential. That was their vote. And the vote that came in was obviously overwhelmingly in favor of keeping two-way streets in the residential area. So, one-way streets in the residential. So that in my mind is with the business owners, they were in favor of changing it back then, and that's the reasons I believe they had the same exact reasoning back then as they do now. And I think keeping it within that 2-block area, and we sign it very well right now. And my suggestion would be is if there's 40 or 42 residences and we're talking about a wider area, that I would like to move forward with just the 2-block area now, and then see how it goes for 10, 12 months, whatever the case may be, and then see if you want to expand it beyond that, and maybe we do, and maybe we don't. But I'm going to make a motion tonight that we proceed with changing the Main Street, Raleigh, and Lawler to two-way streets, and then we'll sign with the stop signs on Second, Third, and Fourth. So then we stop traffic
On Lawler and Raleigh.
and
Yep.
on Lawler and Raleigh.
That'll be the 36-inch stop signs.
It sure can be, yep.
And then we'll make for sure that we move those do not enter signs, then proceeding on east and west, or however those signage
Yep.
is. And we got them on both sides of the street
We
right
do.
now.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think that shows up very well.
Yeah, the proposal was to go to, I think we're going to use do not enter instead of wrong way.
Okay.
It's just it's a bigger sign and it's recommended, so more noticeable.
So that was a motion.
So that's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? Not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Motion is second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We'll be adjourned.
Okay, I would like to call the Public Health and Safety meeting to order. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carried. We have one item, Heart and Soul Fireworks application for June 16th, 2017. Oh, we have two items. First one, Heart and Soul Fireworks application, June 16th, 2017. Anybody here going to say anything about this?
I think this is the same as what they've done
In the past.
And so I'd make a motion to approve.
I just have one question. Are we having the fire truck there like we usually do?
There's Paul. This is out at the middle school on the,
Yeah, it's the same setup, the same
Okay.
people doing it.
Star fireworks.
We'll follow the same safety precautions, and we'll have a truck out
okay.
there.
No, I have,
If we happen to be in a burn ban,
Right, that was
we'll
Correct.
review that between now and then.
Yep, we'd look at that at that time.
Okay,
Yep.
we'd have at least one more council meeting before then. so. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carried. Next item is a burn permit for MTI. And Jimmy Nicholas. What's going on here?
Well, it's obvious. We want to burn something.
Yeah.
Who voted for him? I've got packets for each of you to.
What?
Kind of explaining what we're trying to do. We've got, the property is, well, the address is 115 South Pepsi. It's over on the west side of town. It's west of Graphics Packaging and north of the Pepsi plant, right along the railroad tracks. It's kind of our thought that this area must have been used as a bit of a dump ground for a while. There's a lot of big chunks of concrete and stuff. We're just trying to clean it up. We've got a wood pile on the west side that we're looking at burning. There's some pictures, if you turn in there a few pages, shows an overhead. I sent them down here, but I must have sent them to the wrong person. But a couple overhead shots there detailing where the area is. We're working in partnership with Commercial Asphalt's, our neighbor to the west. They've come in with some big equipment, kind of piled things up a little better, built up a berm to the north and around the actual burn site. And then there's a couple pictures of the pile of wood itself, if anybody wants to get some firewood before we do this. But we're just trying to clean it up. This looked like probably about the best opportunity we had. We've been in contact with the fire department. Marcy and Paul have both been out there, kind of looking things, giving us some advice and such. We're just trying to clean it up.
what happens after with the, you rake it out?
We'll
Scoop
cover
it out?
everything up. Again, Commercial is going to come in with some equipment and fill the hole back in where this will all burn out of. And hopefully then we can gravel and extend our parking, kind of make a little more room for us to get around with the equipment that's over there. That building is currently being used for our Butler Edge technology program. I don't know if anybody's been out there lately, but we've got stuff that doesn't really turn around on a dime. So it kind of, we don't necessarily need 40 acres for it, but it's tight to get some of that equipment turned around in there. So it would help us out, it'd get rid of an eyesore that's there. We've been in contact with the neighbors, everybody's naturally wind direction and stuff, but again, we'll be working with these guys, probably checking with them daily. Okay, what's tomorrow look like? Okay, what's tomorrow look like? So that whenever they think weather conditions are right, we'll be there the next morning as soon as sun up.
I appreciate the fact that you're in there cleaning this property up, and I definitely feel that between you and talking with the fire department that it'll be done correctly, so I would make a motion to approve.
Second. Motion by Bev, second by Marty. I have one question. The permit says time desired just as May 2017. So if it's not done by the end of the month, we're looking at a
I
different
guess
permit?
I didn't do that part.
Time desired to burn, May 2017, weather permitting.
Well, that's the ideal time for us, again, as we move a little later in the year. I guess I didn't even look at that.
It's 2 weeks.
Yeah, is that?
Jeff?
Is that enough? I'm asking, is that enough time? I mean, if you need another week or another. Instead of it coming back. That's,
The big part of it's just what the weather does
Yeah.
in the next 2 weeks. The biggest factor, and we've discussed this with them, is wind direction. We don't want a real strong wind, but if we do have a little bit of wind, we want it to be from the southeast, which is obviously the prevailing wind in the summertime here, so. So what happens in the next 2 weeks is, I don't know, if you need to modify the
I'm just,
application.
if it doesn't happen.
Can I
then-
scribble that out and put June?
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
would-
I'm
well-
not trying to be, it's just,
Could we,
I would move to amend the burn permit to by June 30th.
And
Okay,
I
thank you.
would rescind my motion and then second Mel's motion then. If that works. I probably should have rescinded, I should have rescinded it first so that we could have had it.
that's all right. Okay, I just want to make sure that,
Yes.
just from a paperwork standpoint, that you don't have to come back if we don't
that's
have
a
favorable
good catch.
conditions. in the-
I see why they voted for you.
Okay.
That's why you voted for it.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carried.
Thank you.
That was just the amendment.
Oh, yeah, that amended.
Catch.
Second.
I
So we
will-
amended to June 30th.
Okay, so I will rescind the original motion. then at this point.
No, okay, just, we needed just a motion to approve the amended version.
A motion to
In a
approve.
second, okay. Okay, so we have the amended version, June 30th, 2017, weather permitting for burn permit for MTI. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. We are adjourned. Now.
Have a motion to call the sidewalk committee to order?
So moved.
You just call it to order.
Okay. Motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Who was second? Dave? Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, we got one item on the agenda, which is the Burr Street sidewalk project and also bike trail plan from Havens all the way down to Spruce. We have had some of the property owners come to us and ask us who is going to be responsible for cleaning the sidewalk and who is going to be liable for anyone that would trip and fall on the sidewalk.
And I'm going to interject right there. The city doesn't decide liability, and we should refrain from talking about who's liable. But we can, and we have our rule. I'm sorry, Terry, for interrupting. We are installing sidewalk adjacent to property owners, and our city policy in town is if you are adjacent to a sidewalk, your property is adjacent to a sidewalk, what we're saying is you need to clean the snow and ice from that sidewalk and maintain that. We have no authority to say who is or is not liable. That would be the courts.
The next thing I also want to say is we have 3 state routes in town that some of the people I've talked to did not realize it. The 3 state routes we have in town are Burr Street, Haven Street, and the bypass, or Ullman Street. On the screen right now is a layout showing from the on-off ramp on the north side of the interstate to Norway Street. What Public Works has looked at is in a case where there is a double sidewalk, the city would clean the interior sidewalk. So the sidewalk that is highlighted in orange. The property owner would be responsible to maintain the sidewalk that's closest to their property, which is denoted in the green.
Why are we having a double sidewalk?
When we originally designed the project, we originally had one sidewalk that would follow
the corridor, and where the frontage roads are, the sidewalk would follow the frontage roads in order to get people to the businesses. When we looked at that, we discussed that if we don't have a sidewalk all on the corridor, then we're going to have people walking down the grass, creating a cattle trail right next to the corridor where there is no sidewalk. If we just put sidewalk along the corridor, then you're going to have people walking from the corridor in the street up to the businesses, which we felt wasn't safe. This project is all about creating a safer route for vehicles and/or pedestrians.
Who's walking that area?
I see a bunch of people walking in that area.
There is a lot of people that walk that area. I see it every time I'm out there, whether I'm at a restaurant or driving through, and I know people that actually, I know one gal that walks from an apartment on the north end, and I see her walking past Rob Shortstop every day, Super 8 to work. And I mean, bless her heart for doing that, winter, summer, spring, fall. But I also see a lot of the people then that are in hotels in that area that walk, for shopping as well as restaurants. So, yeah, I've thought a long time it's vitally important that we get sidewalks in there. But I have to say, too, I am surprised at this double sidewalk situation, and it doesn't appear to be an easy one to figure out.
I don't want to change the subject prematurely, but in the little description, it also talked about maintaining bike trails. We're not seriously talking about business owners maintaining a bike trail.
We do. Like the, Cabela Bike Trail, those property owners that abut up to that trail, Cabela's and/or Avera, they are responsible for cleaning the sidewalk that abuts their property. Now, what we have done in a case where it's a 8-foot wide trail, they clean 5 foot of it. Same case on North Minnesota. North Minnesota from 15th all the way up to the bypass, those homeowners are responsible for cleaning that bike trail that butts up against their house.
Who's biking in the winter?
Bike trails are considered as a multi-use path, not only for bikes, but also people walking and things like that.
So do we have a sidewalk and a bike trail? Or is it
We
just
have
a sidewalk designated as a bike trail?
Correct. We have a sidewalk on the other side of the street on North Minnesota. That's a 5-foot wide sidewalk.
I also know there's a bicycling group that actually drops their summer bikes and goes to winter bikes with the big tires and does bike here all year round.
I go to a winter bike too. It's called a Ford Fusion.
So do I.
Now, the whole purpose, one more thing, the whole purpose of this, and we talked about just having 5-foot sidewalk on both sides, but the whole purpose of having a bike trail is MTI just had a grant to create bike trails around their facility, and they wanted a way to connect to Cabela's, to Walmart, to the other bike trails in town. So MTI will have a bike trail that'll go down on the north side of Spruce, and then it'll continue on to Cabela's. And once we pass over Burr Street, then we will do a street assessment to extend those sidewalks and/or bike trails to connect with the Cabela Trail. On the west side of Burr Street, it will be considered as our bike trail, which will feed to feature sidewalk that we're going to put in on Norway, Havens, and will continue on to the bike trail that runs along Dry Run Creek.
I'm for sidewalks. I'm just trying to, why the double sidewalk? What's the advantage of that?
I guess the reasoning, what we talked about is try to get people to the businesses without having them walk in the street.
So they can't walk on the one side. That's not good enough. They've got to have it on both sides.
You're talking both sides of the corridor?
Yeah. No, this double sidewalk, I guess I don't understand where,
So are you talking getting rid of the sidewalk up along the frontage road?
Not that one, I want to get rid of that green one there, along the businesses.
But I think that
I mean, I think there should be sidewalk, but, you know, it's not Chicago O'Hare.
I'm just not understanding. I mean, if you can do something with the pointer to maybe explain a little bit better the need for it as far as the functionality, but as I look at it as well, it just seems to me like the sidewalk that's on, that is right next to Burr, right next to the street, makes total sense. And then having sidewalk then that goes from that up to the business makes sense. Or up to, you know, passing the corridor, but I don't understand the need for having the sidewalk all along that interior. If you can better help us understand that, I'd appreciate it.
Could you maybe tell us what businesses are located at the different places? I'm just thinking,
That might help too.
yeah, that if we knew what was located along the green, I would give a frame of reference. Yeah, I know.
That's what I'm wondering, if that's their issue.
You got Lance's here. Oh, wait. Yeah, Grant Oil's here. And this is very Sinai. You got Sinclair here. Days Inn is here, and Arby's is here.
Okay.
Miss Campbell's in there, didn't you?
Campbell's is over here, right there.
So is when you start heading back north then, I'm sorry, but when you start heading back north then, do you see the same type of setup? Or once you get north, is it only the ones along the court or the interior?
Once you go north, there is no frontage road.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it's basically along the corridor.
Okay, that makes sense then to me, I understand, thank you.
Terry, go back to that map there you were just on. And it's coming from the interstate there, you got the orange,
Yeah.
then it goes to green. Why there's changing colors there? City's gonna stop there?
The city will stop here because this abuts the, public right of way, so we would maintain what goes underneath the interstate. And then butting up against the public right of way, that's where the property owner would, take on. So if we changed it, so the original plan was to run our sidewalk here, then we came out here and ran along the frontage road, and then we ran it back here to cross over. When we looked at that, we felt that there was no side, people aren't going to be wanting to walk along here, out, keep on going, they're going to walk the cattle path along this way.
You think so? That's the part I can't, where am I going if I'm walking out on the orange part out there that I can't go walking on the green part?
And why do I want to have my back to people going 35, 40 miles an hour?
And I can tell you from a running experience, I'm not gonna go anywhere on those orange places. It's too dangerous.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
I'm gonna stay as far away from those as I can.
Jerry, are you looking for a recommendation tonight, or just review it?
We're basically reviewing it and giving a chance for the business owners to speak.
And Terry, maybe you could correct this, or correct me if I'm wrong, but if you were to eliminate those orange paths, it's not going to eliminate the business, what you're asking business owners to
Correct.
do, it's just going to take away the extra sidewalk the city was going to do.
That is correct.
Now, currently, this is a state project,
Yes.
and so do we even oversee what they have approved already?
I guess I'm gonna, yeah. I'm gonna ask Jay, who's the DOT engineer, to speak on that.
Before you start, Jay, is this the only slide that has double sidewalks?
Yes. That is the only one.
I guess, my name's Jay Peppel. I'm the area engineer here in Mitchell for the DOT. So I guess I just answer a question. I guess I'm not sure what the question was. I couldn't hear.
If we're reviewing this and there's parts we might not like or might want to change, do we even, since it's a state project, do we even have the ability to even request a change or even
To
influence that?
To be perfectly honest, 5 years ago, yes, maybe.
But, and that's, yeah. And,
You know,
and I was
moved
at,
here 2
I
years
was at
ago,
that,
so.
yeah, and I was at that meeting 5 years ago.
Well, right now, the contract's already, they're
Yep.
out there working right now. We've already got, can we change things? I'm sure we can. Well, with typicals and with the contractor and what he's done so far, it would be a tough change. It really would. I heard the comment that do people walk along here? Go to Google Earth sometime. It surprised me when I looked at it, because I had the same comment. Do people even walk there? So I spent some time down here. 2.5 years ago, I moved here. I said the same thing. Nobody's walking up and down this thing. Google Earth, if you go to Google Earth, there's places where you can actually see a foot trail from Google Earth, from a satellite view. People are walking it. I mean, it looks like a cattle trail going by the motel over there by, Corona Village in that area. Yeah.
Especially underneath the bridge.
Yep. From an engineering standpoint, do you want sidewalks on both sides? Yes. I hate to say this, but people are too lazy to walk across the street, walk down, and then go back to the other street. I agree with you. Do you want to walk? There is a separation between the curb and gutter and the, I think, what have we got, 10 feet in there, Terry?
5 to 10 feet in different locations.
At different locations. People will not walk along there. They will not come along the service road, walk back, and then walk back. They just don't. Is it right? Is it wrong? I don't know. So yes, you do want to keep a sidewalk on both sides of the corridor for those people. The service road, I guess I'm just going to say that the sidewalk along the service road is basically for the business owners. Whether some may disagree that I'm not going to get involved on whose responsibility it is to clean those, but at the same time, that is to get the walkers or the people that are going to those businesses directly to their front door. So you want to keep the corridors so people walk up and down that, and the rest of it is to get up to their door.
Thank you.
With that, does anybody else want to come up?
Well, I mean, not to cut off public discussion, but it sounds like we can't do anything anyway.
I think
That's
that
what I just heard.
the concerns that we got, I guess, are really more related to the maintenance rather than where the sidewalk should be. So I think that's what more of the concerns are.
Good evening. I'm Bruce Haynes with McDonald's. I'm in favor of sidewalks. In this particular area, I don't know if there would be an extra half mile or mile of sidewalks that would be put in order to do 4 different sidewalk tracks across that piece of property. But that's a lot of feet of sidewalks that are being poured in a short area. Whether they're effective, efficient, whether that's cost management, I don't know. Leaving our property, and we're on the top corner of the map there, and as our cars are exiting, heading back towards the truck stop to be able to leave to get back on Burr Street, we'll need to be driving across that sidewalk on that curb day in and day out with hundreds and hundreds of cars. My concern is I think we're going to crush that sidewalk. Sidewalks being laid in next to typical parking lots don't last long. I mean, everywhere you see a sidewalk inside of a boulevard that comes up a ramp or down a ramp, or a lot of traffic goes over top of it, it crushes it. And once a sidewalk is crushed, they're no longer safe because they're full of cracks and, they heave and they do all kinds of things. And so as the highway department develops sidewalks, I think a sidewalk is typically 4 to 6 inches thick. 3.5 to 4. And in our case, where you're going to be crossing it with farm truck traffic, trailers, motorhomes, campers, cars, boats, whatever, that sidewalk would have to be probably an 8-inch sidewalk to maintain that type of traffic through there without crushing it. And so I think we're going to have a maintenance problem very quickly. And the same thing's going to happen across the street with Arby's, because in order to enter or exit Arby's or the Days Inn, you're going to enter and exit right across the top of a sidewalk in both of those locations, right across the street from one another. And the same thing will happen over there, because the hotel motel parking that they accommodate will be truck, trailer, traffic, heavier, and sidewalks just aren't designed for that. And so we're putting sidewalks into a destination area where sidewalks really aren't designed to maintain the integrity of a parking lot. And so, you know, and I've talked to Terry Johnson, and I respect Terry, and I'm not here tonight to talk about the snow removal and the maintenance and all of those things that will have to come later after we see what we've got. My opinion on this is once we see it, we'll try to separate who's going to plow and how much and where the snow is going to go. The third thing is, I think Steve mentioned it, anytime you put sidewalks so close to a corridor without a boulevard for a safety setback of some kind, and I think some of those sidewalks, Terry, are 1 foot to 3 foot back off the curb line.
I think some are curbside on the frontage road, and the other ones are between 3 and 10 feet. I mean,
Okay.
5 and 10 feet.
So anywhere from curb line being back 6 inches to back 5 or 10 feet, you can see on the map, there's a lot of them that are very, very close. And as Steve said, if you're walking and those cars are to your back and they make a misstep, that's a tragic place to be. I was there yesterday when fire trucks came down, and the fire truck was trying to get down the street, and there was no place for the cars to go, and you know, and that's right now during construction, so that's a whole different situation. But you know, if somebody gets rear-ended that doesn't stop, the first place he's going to go, he's going to get hit, and he's going to bounce up over that sidewalk, or he's going to go where that sidewalk is, and you know, that's where pedestrians are at. So, you know, I can think of all kinds of reasons why that's a dangerous situation to put the pedestrian in at a point in time where his back is to the, you know, to the traffic. And so, you know, I understand sidewalks, there's a need. I wish all the sidewalks were 10 feet back like they are. What's a typical city?
7 feet back.
7 feet back in a typical city situation. And you don't have the rate of speed. I don't know, Mel, if it was you that said, you know, you're going to have a fairly high rate of speed going. And, you know, we're doing a lot of this work down here now to reduce accidents and injuries. And I'm afraid that we're undoing some of those accident injury potentials by having sidewalks that could be a potential injury-prone situation. So I guess revisiting the things I talked about, the sidewalks I don't think are going to be built to handle the weight of the cross-traffic that's going to bounce over top of them. I don't know that they're safe. We do have to adjust our thinking on snow removal down the road in the future on how all of that's going to happen. I think we can do that when the time comes, and that'll be this fall. But and then the cost of 4 sidewalks when we maybe could get by with 2. So thank you very much.
Bruce, Tim McGannon. A couple of your concerns. First of all, and I don't know that you're proposing this, but it sounds like no sidewalk is safer than a sidewalk. I think a sidewalk is going to be much safer than not having a sidewalk in that area. The second point is where we are crossing an approach or a driveway, typically we reinforce and thicken the sidewalk in that area to the same thickness as your approach surface through there. So it won't be a 3.5-foot sidewalk through your approach, I don't believe.
Those are 8, Tim.
8 inch, thank you.
I appreciate that.
So those are the 2 points. Sidewalk is safer than no sidewalk, and we'll have an 8-inch section on your approach.
And Tim, I'm glad you brought that up. When you look at the colors of sidewalks in the pods or islands, I'll call them, I'm not a designer, and hopefully I never am, but there's a lot of real estate there to work with And when you move snow at a high rate of speed with plows, that snow's going to be wrung to the outside. And so eventually all of that snow will end up where that sidewalk is. I guess I'd have to go to Jay or Terry and say, with all of that real estate out there, was there room to go to 13 feet away from the curb for some of those sidewalks? Or was it a limit of space that we had to go right out to curbside with those sidewalks?
There's a couple reasons. I guess you can see the inside the orange deals, the little.
Jay, can you talk into the
Oh,
microphone?
I'm sorry.
Thanks.
Sure. You can see the three pods, I guess is what you call them. You know, what those are basically retention ponds. And what I mean by retention ponds is as it rains, from what I've heard in this area, the mall area, help me, Terry. The old tumbleweed area kind of got, the parking lot got flooded and whatever. The reason was, a lot of that is that water got to that area too fast. So what you see there is, those are retention ponds. So the pipes are all designed to only allow so much water through. So as the rain comes, design-wise, I'm not saying this is going to happen, hopefully it will, is that pipe there across Norway will only let so much water through that the down there at the tumbleweed can handle. So the idea is that the water starts backing up in those ponds. Yeah, there probably is room to do some things there, Bruce, I'm not, but what we tried to do is make as much large a retention area as we could with those areas. So as that water starts backing up, it'll back into the first pond and back into the second, and it can go into the third. So hopefully then it'll reduce the flow that goes back down into the tumbleweed. So could we have moved it 10 feet is kind of a typical deal? So that's kind of what we went with. So you see that storage area, that's kind of a consistent throughout the state. That's just kind of their standard they use. It gets a little narrower as you get down towards the Cubbies in that area. And tumbleweed would be another example in that area. It gets a little bit narrow, but we got no room down there. In fact, we're actually abandoning some right-of-ways to hold some signs so they don't have to move those signs and such too. So it does get a little bit closer in that area, but that's more due to right-of-way issues. So up here, it's more storage. Down there, it's more right-of-way. So I don't know if that explains it, but that's the theory.
I guess I have a philosophical question, and that is, where we see a sidewalk, we're saying, we want you to walk there. This is where we'd like you to be. And is this really, I understand people walk there, I get that. But do we want to encourage even more people, especially if sidewalk is curbside or almost curbside, when people are going 35, 40 miles an hour and you're walking with the traffic?
I'll just suggest an alternative viewpoint there, Mel. In my mind, this is more a recognition of, okay, we know this is where you want to walk, let's make it as safe as it can be.
Well, then I don't think we're doing that, because we're putting the sidewalk too close to a state highway. We don't have sidewalk on the interstate, even though there are people who walk on the interstate for various reasons, because it's unsafe. And now we're putting a sidewalk next to a state highway, saying, walk at night, do that. Our blessing, walk at night. Walk with your back to the traffic. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
I understand, but I've even been out there many times at night, coming back home from eating out late in the evening or whatever, and I see workers walking back late at night, and it does kind of, I guess, give me a little bit of a shake when I see them, because they don't always have appropriate clothing on, and they're walking and not having a sidewalk to walk on, and that scares me. I also think about the fact that we've got Sanborn, and people drive the same speed limit really on Sanborn as they would out here in this area. And these are going to be 8-foot wide sidewalks, as I understand. Am I speaking correctly here?
The west side will be an 8-foot sidewalk, the east side will be a 5-foot sidewalk.
Okay.
And just one quick note too, the actual driving lanes of both both lanes will actually be 14-foot lanes, so you got another 2-foot buffer versus, so there, you'll have about 2 foot from the curb to the top of the curb, you'll have another 2 foot before you get to the white line or the driving surface. So typically, if you have a 12-foot lane, these will be 14-foot lanes, so you got a little bit more buffer there.
I really believe that this is complementary to our city, and I believe that this tells, our visitors, it tells the people of our city, that we are looking out for you, whether you walk or whether you drive, either one. And I also want to say that we've had sidewalk going in and out of about every single business around town, and the sidewalks do hold up good through the driveway areas. I know at Rob Shortstop, we've had it there 13 years now, and it hasn't broke up. So I believe what we've got planned will hold up well. We've got semis coming in and out of there unloading, so, and we haven't had an issue.
Jay, you indicated that we're obviously out there working. Maybe some of this discussion should have taken place a while ago. But you did make the comment that we will try to accommodate as best we can. So is there, as you explained very well the problems that we have out there for water and the drainage and the ponds that we have, and that was the reasoning why to keep as much area as we can with holding water. But did you make a comment, though, that we will try to appease as best we can? Did you mean we'll be able to pull the sidewalk in a little bit? Or since the blueprints are done, everything has been bid, we're ready to roll, do we have any room at all? I guess is what we're trying to see if there is.
From a hydraulic standpoint, design-wise, they would have to go through the whole process again to do that. I mean, I'm just saying like I said, anything can be done, but it all costs money, it all costs time. I would give an example too. If we move the sidewalks off, all the cross pipes would have to be extended. So, to make those new typicals work. So there would be a huge cost involved, and I know they would not sign off on, the minute I flood out the tumbleweed and I move that ditch in, that's the first thing that a lawyer's going to ask me, why did you do that? And if I don't have the hydraulic analysis to prove that, I'm hanging myself.
So if you can also explain, we're coming off the interstate, we have the orange, then we go to the green, and then we come across the street, we have the orange over there. That looks to be kind of the closest to the highway or the Burr, that area right in there. So can you just give us an approximate space that we have with the boulevard there?
I could have brought some plans. I didn't know we were going to get into this discussion, but I'm sure it's 10 feet.
Okay.
But I couldn't, don't quote me on that for that location. You're talking between the sidewalk and the curb, correct?
Correct. Yep, the distance between where the sidewalk is.
Yeah,
between-
I'm
it
pretty
doesn't
sure
look
it's
like a
10.
very big space, but it's a big area. So I guess my point is 10 feet is wider than most. And I understand your concerns, Mel, with people walking out there with their backs. But I think they will not be right on the road itself. There will be a buffer there.
Yeah, with the 10 feet, and that's why I explained the 14 feet too. That actually does give you another 2 feet. And the 14 feet allows bikers that don't want to use the bike path or more street-type bikers. A bike shared use path is more recreational type bikers. You'll find a lot of over-the-road type bikers. They will actually use that 14-foot lane. They won't get onto because they keep up with the traffic and stuff. So they'll use the actual road itself.
I want to say that this project really started, well, I started with it 27 years ago in 1990. Most of the people that started looking at this from DOT were under a program called Hazard Elimination System. And we started looking at this in 1990, to my knowledge, how to fix the problems we have out here with service roads. We've eliminated most of them. The others we've moved away from the road. I think this is going to be a safe system. I think once the concrete's in place and you see it, you'll see it's going to work well. Most of the people who started looking at this with me back in 1990 have retired. A few have come back out of retirement. But I think when you see it on the ground, you're going to be very happy with it.
The reason I'm up here right now is because of the frustration. I've never seen this, this plan. I signed off on an original plan that, if you notice those properties on the bottom part of the map, Lot MO is the only one that does not have direct access to the highway. Every other piece of property, actually, people can exit the highway and get to their drive. So they're limiting the availability of my property. But the frustrating part to me is when I close my doors because of the people can't get to my property, do I still have to pay for the sidewalk and keep it clean?
I got just one more point before you sit down, and just so the council and the group understands, the boulevards in between the two lanes of traffic are concrete barrier boulevards. They're approximately 3 feet high.
No, they're curb height.
Okay.
6 inches. Raised medians.
Okay, I thought they were higher. Okay, that's good to know. But I guess we'll be back come fall and we'll, after it's done, and we'll try to decide how we're going to work with the snow removal, because there's a lot of width of street to be done and a lot of area, and there'll be a lot of snow, and where that snow all goes, and where the snow goes into those pods, or where we can move all that snow to, and as property owners, we're not allowed to move that snow back out into the highway or back into the city street. We have to move it onto our own property. I think by statute, if I'm saying that right, Terry, I'm not allowed to move snow from my private property and or sidewalk back into a public street.
Actually, Tim, you want to respond?
Yeah, sidewalk snow can be moved into the street. And I've been wanting to say this too, on the Cabela's path, for example, and on others, we recognize that at some point that snow gets too difficult for a typical property owner to move. And at those times, usually in late February or March, we will come out with our heavy equipment. If there's frost in the ground, that will support our equipment and help you out. We're not opposed to doing that. Our heavy equipment we don't like on the sidewalks because it will break them up. But if there's sufficient frost and there's too much snow and you can't move it anymore, we're not opposed to coming out and helping out with that.
Thank you very much.
Terry, if we can't do anything, can't change anything, why do we have this hearing?
We had the hearing so the property owners could voice their comments on who is responsible for cleaning their own sidewalk. That's what this is really about.
Stan Peterson with Campbell Supply. We found out about the sidewalk, 6 weeks ago, that we were going to be responsible. That's the first we knew anything about the sidewalks, and that we would have responsibility. First question would be, are we going into is there anywhere else in the city of Mitchell where state property contracted through the city, the maintenance part, that is now being forced onto the businesses to take care of? Is that a first? Is there any place else in the city of Mitchell where that's done?
To my knowledge, every private property in town is responsible for clearing snow on their property. That includes the I-90 business loop, which is Havens, Sanborn, which used to be a state route and is now turned over to the city.
And none of this is our property. Those sidewalks are going to be 100 feet from our property. And as many of the other places, 100 feet would be the same. So it's not doing us one lick of good to have them walk 100 feet by out there. It's just sidewalk that we all of a sudden become responsible for, and it's not on our property like a sidewalk in our home area, in our residential area. And the liability is an issue. Where is it? Where does it, if we're responsible for the sidewalk, not the grass, where does it come and go? Most of us would rather not end up in the courts. We'd like to know where we're at before it gets to that point. And as far as the sidewalk otherwise, over at the beginning where it comes off the interstate, it looks to me like, you know, a lot of that runs along Burr Street, what you see mostly in orange, could go. You could have them run that sidewalk close to the businesses where it could almost be worth having it. But out there by the road, it's a sidewalk that does most of the businesses nothing. It's just a sidewalk, and there's no benefit to the businesses that are going to be responsible to take care of it.
At the interstate stand, that is to get it underneath the overpass bridges. That's the only place we can cross. The interstate is under the overpass bridge.
I understand that, but the whole area that runs along there, that whole area there, I think if you had this angle coming down over here and just stay right along the business route all the way up, you would have them way off the road. You're not going to have any problem with when they come by with the snow plows at 35 mile an hour. It's not going to push it back on the sidewalks, and they could actually benefit businesses. And that could easily happen on both sides.
I think the question that that the business owners, I think, contacted us about is this. After 48 hours after a snow, are they going to be treated like every other property in town and receive a letter from us after 48 hours to clear their snow, or we will? That's, I think, really the only question we can answer tonight.
Well, I have a question here, and that is, okay, let's look at the map. So, we talked about what these businesses were. Who owns this property? And if I'm on the service station, and I don't know that I'm saying this accurately, but if I'm the service station here, why am I clearing this sidewalk here?
The city's clearing the orange.
Okay, so this here, the property owner's property goes all the way out to there? Is that the idea?
No, that's the sidewalk is adjacent to their property, that's why.
So what's Stan talking about, 100 feet away, and it's not his property?
Because his property is the nearest property that's adjacent.
Okay, all right, but who owns the property that the sidewalk is on?
It's public right-of-way.
Why does that become Stan's problem?
That's state law and city law.
As I understand it, it's public right-of-way next to whatever the property is, no different than residential.
So Stan said this side, here's Campbell Supply, this distance here, that's his
100 feet.
contention of it is 100 feet, and this is public right of way. I think his question is, so if we're putting the sidewalk being by the business, why isn't the sidewalk down here? If you're gonna do that, and then going back on that other sheet, paint the green and you come down and you put, and I don't know if this is possible either, but you put the orange on the inside, not on the outside. But my question, and Mel and I have been talking, I don't understand why this one and this one are needed. One or the other, and if I'm a runner, and some of you might know that, and I run this route, if I'm coming down here, I'm staying away from anything on here, and I'm gonna come, and I'm certainly not gonna stop and look and wait for cars here when I run by, and I'm not gonna stop and look and wait for cars when I run here. I'm gonna try and go down here and stay completely off of any traffic and stay away from that. But, you know, back to the point of, it's already decided, it's already designed, and I was at the meeting 6 weeks ago when we talked about the drainage and stuff, and that's a super important point, flooding all that out. But we get back way down by the corner where Chef Louis is again, and the sidewalks right out next to the street. So the design part of that, and as they said, was 5 years ago. So I don't know if there's any changing it today, but I just don't understand the requirement for the inside and the outside sidewalk.
Tim, if we're,
Just in that one spot.
Tim, if we're out there cleaning the orange, what would it cost us to continue on to do the green? I mean,
Well-
it just, it seems, you know, it seems silly to me. We're gonna clean this and say, no. And then we're gonna clean this, and then we're gonna go, no.
I guess the precedent, Mel, is the big thing. Then do we start cleaning the sidewalk on Olman and the sidewalk on Havens and the sidewalk on Sanborn? And
But are those property owners 100 feet away from those sidewalks?
no, certainly not. I think Parks Department will be strapped with most of this.
I think if you're, just want to be clear that if the council's going to consider conferring a benefit on a business, that it's not planning to confer on the rest of the town, they just need to be very clear about why they're treating them differently.
But if I am cleaning a sidewalk at Daylight Donuts, what benefit does that confer on Casey's here?
I'm not following you, Mel.
Well, the sidewalk is 100 feet away. So if I'm cleaning a sidewalk 100 feet away from Casey's here on the corner, and I'm down by Daylight Donuts doing it, what benefit is that to Casey's? What benefit is it to Campbell Supply? I mean, you can argue, well, cleaning the road is a benefit to Campbell Supply, that Burr Street there 100 feet away.
But, and I respect what you're saying, but at the same point in time, if you've got anybody in here that says, I never use the sidewalk, I never use the sidewalk, I never use the sidewalk, which we hear, whether it be resident or business, we say, you know, you may not use it, but the people that want to walk back and forth through, you know, from Casey's to Daylight Donuts, or from Super 8 to Blarney's, or whatever, these are the people that are going to use it. And it's pretty difficult to say when one business has to clean theirs, another business doesn't have to do theirs.
I absolutely accept that, except when I clean my sidewalk, and I live on a corner, and I've got acres of sidewalk, it is on my property. It is not 4 blocks away.
100 feet is not 4 blocks away. 100 feet is the distance basically of most of the properties in the city. Yeah, I mean, we're talking, so, but it's not 4 blocks away.
I mean, Stan's, I didn't mean to interrupt. Are you done? Did
Go
you
ahead.
finish? Stan's question is, why don't we move the sidewalk closer so that it actually is a benefit? I mean, if we're going to make them do it, so can we do that? Jay, is that possible to move that so that it actually is
Let's get one
closer to
thing
their?
clear tonight. We can't change this plan.
Right.
They're in the middle of working on it right now. And to redo this, you're just not changing a sidewalk, as Jay brought up. You're gonna be changing drainage, you're gonna be changing. So really, the issue is in my mind, and I don't know if you agree or disagree, but we've got to work with these business owners to try to come up with a solution. And there was a lot thrown at us tonight, and I think, to be quite honest with you, when Bruce said we need to get something figured out this fall, that is way too late. But tonight might not be the night to get everything, but I think we've got the conversation started. And Nate is going to be saddled with the orange right now. I think what we need to kind of understand is what is the dollar amount and what is the time that is going to be with the orange, and that's obviously as plan A. And then the discussion is, okay, what if we would then take the responsibility? And I agree with Mel. Me as a homeowner, I live in a corner lot too. You know, mine is 7 feet away. And, you know, did this need to be done? Tim says it's 20-some years in the making, and obviously there's an issue. There's a safety issue. But I would like to have maybe Nate come back, figure out the time, the cost, and then we can have another discussion and invite our owners back. And not this fall, but maybe within a month or so. And then at that point in time, you guys can kind of digest it a little bit more. Don says he has, first time he's seen this, just a few weeks ago, so, or a couple weeks, whatever it was. So I really feel that, I think we're a little hasty in making a decision tonight. But you guys, whatever you think, but I would like to have Nate maybe put some cost to this, come back. They inherited this issue of being a distance away. I'm struggling with the 2 sidewalks, but let's just come to the conclusion that this was designed and bid, and the way we've got to go with it, but yet let's maybe work with the owners out there and the businesses and see if we can come to some resolution. Justin, I understand what you're saying too, is if we do something out of the ordinary, we got to make it very specific of why we did it. And I think there is some uniqueness here that may deserve it.
Just one more point I want to make clear. I think we're going into new territory if we are imposing that responsibility onto a business, onto a sidewalk that is not on their property. Can we do that? Have we ever done it before? Is this a first? Is it legal? Can we do it? I think that needs to be one of the first things that we need to find out.
Well, I think we heard tonight that state law says, yeah.
Yeah, whoever's the closest to joining.
Okay.
That doesn't make the state law right, and it doesn't mean that we can't come to some other kind of accommodation perhaps.
Okay, because I don't know, and I haven't heard of any other place in the city where, when it's owned by someone else, that it can be imposed upon those businesses.
Really, every sidewalk is owned by somebody else. I mean, it's all, the sidewalks are all located within public right-of-way. So every individual landowner doesn't own their sidewalk.
But they own the property right there.
Adjacent to it, right, which is what Campbell's is.
What do you guys think? Can we actually come to a conclusion tonight?
No,
I don't think so. I think it was nice to have them here all voicing their concern, and now we need to start rehashing out a little more, but like you said, we can't wait till the fall, because we could have a snowstorm in the fall, and then we got this problem, but, you know, within maybe another month, let's put it back on the agenda and see what thought process we might have to come up with, because try to accommodate them and help them out when that day does come, so. We definitely got a concern, like you said, we're not changing the plan, the plan's happening, it's done and approved, and the change order will cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, so that ain't happening, so we gotta figure out how we're gonna get by the sidewalks where they're at, that's what the bottom line is, and we are not gonna come up with that answer tonight. But it's good to have all the business here giving us their feelings, because now we can start digesting ourselves and see if we can work the plan. So,
Well, and one correction I want to make, 100 feet is not a city block. A city block is 300 feet. So we're not talking that great of a distance, and we are talking something that's going to be an asset to our city. It's going to be a safety issue for our citizens. It's also going to be a safety issue for our visitors. And this is a project that is very worthwhile. It's been a long time in the planning. You know, I understand there's going to be a little bit of bumps and whatever, but I don't think that that's anything that we really need to be, you know, trying to strike everything. And those things as far as cleanup should be something that can be worked out. We have a precedence. We have to follow a precedence unless we're going to change things for everybody in the city. And with that, I have nothing else. Thank you.
I'd like to just have one more second of your time, and I know you guys are busy tonight and you're trying to stay on schedule. The idea that Stan brings up where you've got public property and I'm a private person and I have adjoining property to a piece of public property, such as we're talking about here, and, you know, not to be a smart aleck about this, but if I own a piece of property and it's Patton Young Park, that's public property. I'm private. Patton Young Park's my next door property. I'm not responsible for moving snow off Patton Young Park. Exactly. Because that's public property. You know, so the idea of private property, public property, there's exceptions. And it's not as black and white as the law seems to say it is. I think there's exceptions, whether that be, you know, because to Mel's point, I could be on the side of Lake Mitchell and it's public property and I'm a landowner and there could be a sidewalk built out by a road that's a quarter of a mile away from me. And if I'm the closest adjoining landowner, that doesn't make me necessarily responsible for that sidewalk necessarily. I mean, common sense has to apply. But as we go forward, I think there's a lot of us landowners that would like to serve on a task force of some kind and help find a solution. We're not trying to be difficult, but we'd like to serve on and serve the public and say, can we find a solution that works and, you know, that's fair and equitable to all and that we don't, you know, we're not here crying about this issue. We just got handed a bad set of goods tonight saying, and our cost on moving the snow on the sidewalks, and I respect what Jeff said, what will the city's cost be to have the Park and Rec look at that as a property owner? What will Stan's cost be? It will be far exceedingly higher than what the city's cost will be because Stan will have to hire a private snow removal person that will charge a lot more and have a lot more cost involved. And so it's not only the care of the sidewalk, but there's a financial responsibility that we're going to suffer through from now till the age of time, clearing those sidewalks at 5, 6, 7 major snowfalls a year, and when we do that. And so in comparison, it'll be fun to see if Stan goes to a private contractor and says, how much to do 100 feet of this sidewalk compared to what the city's cost will be, you know, type thing. So thank you guys very much.
Well, being that we were mainly just going to review this and ask for the property owner's comments, I don't know if we really need a motion to table it. We could just call it as review. Is that okay, Justin?
I don't think there needs to be a formal motion on it.
So with that is there any more comment or is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Committee adjourned.
Marty, you ready?
Who's Public Works Chairman? You are? Okay.
Okay, let's call Public Works Committee to order. We have one item on the agenda, motion to approve the agenda. So moved. We have SBN Associates presentation of the water. Start with over you, Tim.
I'm going to introduce Terry Aker, who is here with Jeff McCormick from SPN, who produced the voluminous report on our water study. It's over 200 pages long. I've read it several times. I know Steve has, and I assume most of you have as well. I've asked Terry to keep his presentation at about a half an hour and hopefully 15 minutes for question and answer after that. So I'll just let Terry take it over, and I believe Stephanie has the program up.
Thanks, Tim. As Tim said, I'm Terry Aker with SPN. I will try to keep this brief. There's a lot of detailed information in here. I know I could go for a couple hours, but I know you'd be bored and to sleep by the end of that. So I'll do my best to keep it to a half hour. That being said, if you have any questions during the presentation or anything, just blurt out and ask me, or tomorrow, or if you think of something, feel free to give me a call and I'll answer any of your questions at that time. Okay, Stephanie. This is an abbreviated scope of what we looked at. To evaluate any water system, you have to look at the demand that you're placing on the system. So that was the first thing we looked at, is demand. Then we looked at all of the overall water system, and tonight I'm breaking it down into the source, and the which is BY and the water treatment plant, looking at those, your water storage facilities, and then the distribution system. And going to look at all those to meet current and future needs. Look at any noted deficiencies, look at alternatives for improvements, and then some recommendations, and then briefly look at what it will do to your user rates if you implement a couple of these options. Okay. So we looked at the years 2004 through 2015 at the water usage, came up with an average year that you were using 686 million gallons with an average day of 1.9 million gallons and a per capita average day of 124 gallons per capita per day. The maximum month during that time frame is the 119 million gallons, which is essentially 4 million gallons a day. One of the notes for the city of Mitchell, the water usage is highly dependent on the precipitation and the lawn watering. That 119 million gallons was during 2012, which was a very dry year. And the peak day during that month was 4.3 million gallons for the day. That was July 17th of 2012. And that's compared to a minimum month of the 35.7, which is only just barely over 1.1 million gallons a day. So we took all of those numbers and came up with the current population of 15,378, the 1.9 million gallons a day, and we've determined that the peak day for Mitchell would be 4.75. And then we used a projection to come up with a population projection of 16,173 for 2040, average day of 2 million gallons a day, and a peak day of 5 million gallons a day.
And that peak number to 2040 is assuming no large industrial water users?
Right, and I've got that as a comment later, but yeah. Yeah, that's just extrapolating with the data with the current use. Okay, one of the sources the city utilizes is BY Real Water. The contracted amount with BY Real Water is 2.65 million gallons a day. So you can see that that does not meet the peak day projected or current. Up until last year, BY was supplying the additional water at the 90 cents per 1,000 gallons. And last year they implemented a surcharge based on that table so that the city is charged more with the use over that contract amount of 2.65
5 million gallons a day. Go to the next slide. So we took that surcharge table and applied it to the last 5 years. And again, you can see when it's a dry year is the only year that it's a substantial amount of money that it would cost the city. Most of the other years, when it's fairly normal, it's not a large amount of money, so.
But this assumes they will give us the water.
That's, yes, correct. That assumes that they will continue to give you the water.
If I can interject, you did approve a contract. We are under contract with BY now to supply the additional water at those rates.
How long is that contract written for, Tim?
I don't know if I had a sunset year, Dan.
So there's more to that, to the slide. Now looking at the water treatment plant, the methodology and the treatment within the plant is capable of meeting the drinking water standards. That's unfortunately the end of the good news with the water treatment plant. The water treatment plant has only produced just over 500,000 gallons in the last 13 years.
And is that because we didn't need it? Is that because?
Just you declined to operate it. The plant is 33 years old, and many of the components need to be updated. It hasn't maintained compliance with EPA standards, and as many of you in here probably realize, 13 years ago or 14 years ago, before we went to BY, that there was taste and odor concerns with the water. I also want to just put this table up here. It just shows the difference in the water quality from BY to that produced by the water treatment plant. It's essentially 2 to 3 times better quality of water. Especially the hardness is almost a third. So again, just some of the deficiencies that I noted going over the water treatment plant are for the water source. The contract amount that I had with BY when we did the report was less than the city's high use periods during the summer months particularly. The water treatment plant is not up to date with the long-term 2 enhanced surface water treatment rule. That's worse than it sounds. What was required with the long-term 2 enhancement surface water treatment rule, that is a mouthful, is to test the raw water for the number of cryptosporidium, and based on the number of cryptosporidium, they'd put you in a bin, and that would give you a log removal that you'd have to achieve. The plant is able to achieve the worst bin that you would be placed in. So, yeah, you just haven't done the testing. So DNR would not have an issue if you had an emergency and had to operate the plant, if it would operate.
How long would they allow us to operate?
Since you can meet the worst, I think they would just allow you to operate. But I'm sure they would want you to get that sampling started as soon as possible if you're going to start using the plant.
What's special about the 1 day? Did we produce water 1 day just to see if we could? Or?
I'm not sure. I just know that that was 1 day that you produced.
Well, it said that we only produced water 1 day in the last 13 years.
No, we produced 540,000 gallons.
But it was during 1 day.
No, we've run
They run it. Whoops. They run the equipment that they don't put it into the system.
Well, they might not put it into the system.
So they're not producing anything that's utilized by the citizens. Then again, I didn't finish the last slide, but the plant hasn't been operating 13 years, so the equipment is not reliable. It's 30 years old, so it's not a reliable supplement or backup source to the BY system. Other deficient taste and odor issues, and then back to what Steve said. I just wanted to note that when we were doing this evaluation, we did not account for any possible rural or industrial water users to come into the city. So, and I don't think you'd want to build something that may never happen. So that's why we didn't do that. But I just wanted to make you aware that if somebody that needs 1 million gallons a day wants to come to the city of Mitchell, right now you could not support that. Okay. So some alternatives that we did look at to meet the 5 million gallons a day peak day demand was to contract with BY just to supplement that contract. Our understanding was that there's a bottleneck in their system that would need to be increased, and we based that and came up with that cost estimate. In the past, the city's cost was 80% of that, and so that's how we came up with that $6.2 million, so that they would be able to supply the 5 million gallons a day. We took that a step further and looked at abandoning the water treatment plant and utilizing, there's 3 connections on the line that bypasses the city down to the water plant that's connected to the city so that BY can supply water directly into the city. The original plan was to bypass the city, mix it with the water that the plant was supposed to be producing and blending it so that all of the citizens got the same quality of water. Since BY is the only water that's being supplied right now, and it's being, pressure coming into town is being reduced when it enters town, and it's also being reduced at the plant, it just makes sense not to reduce it twice to pump it all the way back into the system. So we looked at that, abandoning the plant. We would build a small building that would include chemical to boost to just like ammonia needs to be, or a chlorine needs to be boosted so your chloramines are the right level. It would be a small little building, and all that was a 1.3 million. So that with a 6.2 totals $7.5 million. But you're not utilizing the plant, so your operation and maintenance costs are reduced significantly. The other option we looked at is upgrading all the equipment in the water treatment plant. There are 2 parallel trains of treatment in the water treatment plant. Each of them are identical and will produce 3 million gallons a day. So we just looked at replacing 1 train, since that'll do 3 million plus the 2.3 you're getting from BY, you're exceeding the 5 million gallons. So why double it?
The first option there, is that a year? Almost.
No, that's capital cost.
And that, it's about 10 miles of pipe?
Yep, that's my understanding. Yep, that's my understanding.
Where's the other 20%?
That's BY share. They pay that because they're getting some benefit from it as well.
I just have to ask, I know when we brought BY in, we did a refurbishing of the plant at that time. And I just don't recall all of what was done at that time. Has it just deteriorated again just for the lack of the fact that we aren't utilizing it? Or why do we see so much deterioration in the plant at this time?
I don't believe, Bev, there's been any adjustment to that plant since it was built. The stuff that was going on inside the plant at the time of BY was just bringing the BY pipeline in and putting into our wet well. All the new pipeline had only to do with BY.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Stephanie. The next option we looked at was essentially the same as it's replacing all of the equipment in the water treatment plant except the lime softening equipment. Instead of using lime softening, we would put a reverse osmosis system in so that you can meet the BY quality of water. If you remember that slide where they were about a third of the hardness and everything, this system would meet that same quality.
Are you really suggesting that lake water tastes as good as BY water?
I didn't say taste yet. There is another We didn't look at it, I looked at it, but we didn't put it in the report. If we would add ozone, which would be about another $2 million on top of that, I do think we could control the taste and odor. But that was getting really spendy, so I didn't include it. The last thing is, there's not a bypass around the pressure reducing vault right now. We're just recommending that in case you ever have to get in there and work at it, it would be nice to have a bypass around that. This is a summary of all of the cost, and this column is UAC. It's the equivalent uniform annual cost, and what that does is takes the capital cost, which are these numbers, gives you an annual cost, which is your interest and principal payment, adds it to your operation and maintenance cost, and gives you your equivalent uniform annual cost. That's what that does is show you, like in this case, where the most expensive option, capital cost option, is $7.5 million, but because of the reduction in operation and maintenance cost of not having to operate the plant, pump the water up there again, is so much less that it actually offsets the lower capital cost and becomes the cheapest annual cost to the city.
Terry, when you say abandon the water treatment plant, I mean, I think about that original water treatment plant in Chicago, which is now a museum. Would it still have any function, or would it be in a...
No function.
Just
no.
an empty building?
Just an empty building.
So Terry, how many cities that get, or towns that get BY water have a water plant that were operating? Anyone that you know of?
All of the smaller towns, none of them. I remember 20 years ago when all this, and then smaller towns were getting real water, they always wanted to maintain their wells just as a safety factor. And now none of them, they're all abandoning their wells. And the same is the case with Mitchell, is you haven't used the plant in 13 years. That's not to say that something catastrophic doesn't happen tomorrow, that you might need it, but one of the next things I'm going to look at is the storage, and you'll have a day of storage during your peak day. So you've probably got 2 to 3 days of storage that will allow them to repair if there's a main break or something like that. So again, I'm not saying that something can't happen, it hasn't yet. But again, anything can happen. So does everybody understand why, even though that's the most capital cost, that it's the cheapest alternative? Okay. Just put this in to show that these are the capital, or the what would be the annual payments for the $7.5 million. You could absorb that into your current budget. This also shows that it's $265,000 less per year for operation and maintenance. That helps offset some of this cost. And you could do that without using your rate or increasing your rates. All you're doing is digging into your surplus a little bit. Okay. I could, just to back up a second. So in my mind, the bottom line on the source and the water treatment plant is, I think the city needs to meet with BY, and maybe you already have that agreement in place, and negotiate to make sure it's that 10 miles and it's that cost, what the costs are going to be. And once we know that, then we can come back and evaluate all this for sure to determine what is the best option for the city. Now I'll get into the water storage. City has 3 tanks, the Burr Street tank at 300,000 gallons, the south at 1 million, and the west tank at 1.5 for a total of 2.8.
Jim, if I recall correctly, you were talking about that the Burr Street tank is not meeting the specs anymore, and I thought I recall you saying something about that you would recommend somewhere in the near future that we eliminate that one.
I'll be getting to that.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'm ahead of you, I'm sorry.
You also own 80% of the tank near Tripp, which would be 2.5 million gallons. We've calculated that the recommended storage for the city for the future would be 2.9 million gallons. So even at the 2.8, you're close to having that storage already. Now, if you were to abandon the Burr tank, then you're losing that 300,000 gallons. Okay. Tim says yes, I say no. My point is that it's 30 miles away and you have no control over that tank. So you're close enough that I'm not concerned about it.
Catastrophic failure was between here and the tank.
Here in Tripp, you don't have it. So, whereas if it happens in the city, you close a couple valves and you're good to go. So that's my thoughts. Okay. For some reason, it's popular. Back with what Bev was alluding to, the Burr Street tank is reaching its end of its useful life. The west tank needs to be recoated on the exterior.
And Tim, didn't we just have them inspect the inside of that west tank not too long ago?
Yeah, last year they not only inspected it, but they went underwater and repainted and fixed corrosion. The inside should be decent,
The
right?
inside's okay, the outside we need to look at?
Yes.
Yep. The south and west tank currently do not have mixing systems, and what that's all about, systems that use chloramines in these larger tanks, and especially in the summer, if you're not fluctuating them sufficiently, they stagnate, and it's just like a line in the middle of the tank, and the top part of it doesn't get mixed. And so what happens is there's nitrification, the ammonia is breaking down, and then you can't maintain a residual, and that has happened for sure in the south tank. So we're looking at, one of the options that we're looking at is putting mixers in the south and west tank to avoid that. And
We're
then-
budgeted to do that this year.
Yep, you are, so. Then just what we've talked about already, that the recommended storage for the city is 2.8, and what you have is 2.9. So alternatives that we've looked at was removing the Burr tank. We've done the hydraulic analysis, and I'll get more into that when I do the distribution system, but you can remove the Burr tank and it'll have little impact for pressures and fire flows in that part of the city. The other, which includes removal of the tank, is replacement of the Burr Street tank. We recommend recoating the west tower for $500,000, and like I just mentioned, installing the tank mixers on the west and the south tank. Okay. Like,
benefit does recoating have besides making it a little better?
stops corrosion so it doesn't start eating away at the steel from the outside in. And like was mentioned, the tank mixers are in this year's budget. Replacing the Burr Street tank is not, like I just said with the hydraulic analysis, it's not a huge deal, but to maintain that storage that's recommended, I would look at doing that in the next few years. And then,
Are there other lines and pumping pressure things to consider though, if we remove the Burr Street tank?
no, the hydraulic analysis, since we put the main line in about 10 or 12 years ago to help equalize between the tanks, and I'll go into that a little bit more, they all fluctuate the same, and so.
Right, but I thought one place in the report there was talk about a line from the current pumping plant coming back south toward Burr Street that might have to be changed or replaced.
Yep, that's been designed, and If you maintain the plant, that is, that would be recommended, but right now, we're not recommending that. So especially if you're going to use those direct connections, that's only needed if you're going to be pumping from the plant up.
Okay. So if we abandon to use the direct connection to depressurize directly into the current system, that part goes,
That goes away. Yep. Okay. Now I'll talk about the distribution system. This is just a table that shows all the pipe sizes and types of pipe that are in the system. 660,000 feet, which is 125 miles of main line you have in the city. Okay.
Is that old stuff, or do they still use copper?
There's still some copper out there, yeah.
It's all small pipe, so it's probably just long leads to serve
2 or 3
small
houses.
areas, or maybe on park or something of that nature.
26% of that 125 miles is CIP and cast iron pipe, which has outlived its useful life and should be replaced in the next few years. That, when you replace that, can be determined by water breaks and frequency of those. Jeff mentioned that last year during the Fifth Street project, some of it was replaced in the, you want to?
Yeah, we replaced the cast iron, I don't remember if it was cast or sand cast on Fifth Street last year. And there was a section that I got to see after it got removed, and there was a lot of corrosion, and at least lost an inch of diameter or better from that pipe that had gotten built up over the years.
How old was that pipe? You know,
First or second decade.
Wow. So you're talking a 4-inch pipe, it's down to.
It was a six,
It was
it
6
inch, it was down to.
down to 4.
4 and a
4-inch
half,
diameter.
5, yeah.
Wow. Just calcium.
Yeah.
Another 10% is AC pipe, which is, in my mind, not as critical to get replaced as the CIP and the CSP.
Okay, but when you say asbestos,
Yep.
cancer,
Right.
so why is it that?
We do test for asbestos as recommended or as required by EPA, and we have had no detect of any asbestos in our water.
But you know, and I'm not arguing with you, but you know, there was a push a few years back to get all the asbestos out of buildings. Why do we get away with having water pumps?
Well, then they found out that once you disturb this asbestos in buildings and schools, it caused more of a problem than not disturbing it.
And the big reason is asbestos is if you inhale it. So when you're drinking or if it's in the water, you're not inhaling it unless, the only.
Unless you drink very poorly.
The
So
6,000 feet of pipe we're replacing on Burr Street this year is asbestos.
So the asbestos, it's almost more dangerous to replace it because when you're down there cutting into it and stuff, it's flying and you're breathing it. So, plus most waters, and Mitchell's is one of them, they usually have a coating on the inside, just like that cast iron pipe we were talking about. So the water's really not typically touching the asbestos part of the pipe. So, okay. And I'll really rush over this. There's 166 dead ends on 4-inch piping. The thing with dead ends is if you have long dead ends, the water gets stagnant, it's not used, so then you have water quality issues. So you want to avoid those if possible, or at a minimum, put fire hydrants at the end of them. So there's 54 dead ends that should have fire hydrants on them. There are 859 hydrants which are operated or are flushed annually, and if they're found to be deficient at all, the city's replacing them. There's 2,153 mainline valves, and unfortunately, the condition of many of those is unknown. Okay, so we ran a hydraulic model on this system. To do that, you test for the pressures in the system on the peak hour, and we determined that was 6,900 gallons a minute. And for fire flows, you test the fire flows during the peak day, and so we put 3,300 gallons a minute on the model to represent the peak day. This table here is design criteria. On the system, you don't typically want more than 80 PSI because that's what most household plumbing is rated for. And you don't want your pressures to get below 35 is kind of the design standard within the system. And then we tested the fire flows maintaining a PSI of 20.
Notice in the report, we go from a low of 40 to a high of 100 in different parts of the town. Is that, and the report noted that the places where it's 100 are maybe
Right.
kind of
And most of the time,
questionable, and 40 is at some dead-end spots and some
and I'll get, yep,
some
no.
high elevation spots in town.
Typically, it shouldn't be at 100 unless what's happening where it's at 100 is down the island and along the lake, and that's when the treatment plant or it's pumping into the system, so it's pushing back against that to get it up the hill. So that's when it reaches the 100. I put the next couple slides in here just to show that I always consider Mitchell to be flat. It is anything but flat. There's 152 feet of difference between the high point and the lower point. So at Highland Mall, it's just static. That's without any flow. It's 40 PSI, and at the water treatment plant, it's 85. And I know these numbers don't match. I think this is somewhere in the system, so. When we put the model, the peak day on the model, everything was at least 35 PSI. I think we were mainly all in the 40s, so.
You said the fire flow was at 20, is that okay?
That's where you want to maintain when you're drawing fire at 20 PSI so you don't create a vacuum and start collapsing pipes. So I guess during fires, people can understand that they're not going to take a great shower, I guess. I mean, and it should be short-lived.
I just asked because you said 35 was good, and it seemed to me in the layman that we were putting out a fire with not enough pressure, but I understand what you're saying.
Okay. Go ahead. Again, I just put this map to show the elevation difference. The yellows are the high spots in town where it's in the 40s, and these blues in here are the low spots where it's pushing the hundreds, like Steve said. A lot of it in here are the 50s and 60s, so most of the city is in good shape. Go ahead. This table just shows what we look for recommended fire flows. And this is the distance between buildings. So the minimum we really want is 500 gallons a minute in some of the residential districts, and in the business district, we want 2,000. When we ran the model, it ranged from 10,000 down to 71, and the main reason that where the lower fire flows were small diameter pipes and long or dead-end mains. It's amazing how much looping helps fire flow. It's a tremendous aid, and when you don't have it, it's almost impossible to meet the fire flows that you want. Okay. We also looked at future development. These are the 10 sites that we looked at. We put demands as if all those were fully developed, ran the model, and everything still looked good. If you go to I guess it's a slide after this. This one I just wanted to show, I talked about already, the equalization between tanks. It's very little. It's a foot, or 2 to 3 feet, so they're all pretty much working in unison. So again, the project we did 10, 12 years ago has paid huge dividends. This is back to putting those future developments on. You can see it does, and this is with no improvements to the system. Most of them, there's a little change, but nothing huge. So I would say that the system can handle the future development. Okay. Well, go ahead and skip this slide. It's just a repeat of what we went over. So we recommend that the CIP and the CSP be replaced. Now, this doesn't have to happen in the next 15 years even, but it's just that's what we've got for an estimated cost to replace it. And so you need to start planning for it. And again, as lines start having more frequent breaks, you need to put those in the system to get replaced. But today's dollars. So I would say with a 15 to 20 years, you're going to want to have most, if not all of that replaced, because it's going to really start breaking and the pipes are going to get smaller. And every time you do replace that, you're going to see improvement in the fire flows and the pressures just because of what Jeff said. I mean, there's a buildup inside those pipes. And Tim has mentioned this. They are currently replacing any of these lines when there's a city street project. And we ran the model and looked at all of these and included a table in the report. So when you're doing a project, you have the pipe size that we recommend replacing it to help get your biggest bang for your buck for fire flow and pressures. And the same can be said with the ACP. It's $16.6 million to replace that. And again, it's the same over the next few years, 20 years, you probably want to start looking at that.
So we need to replace all of it. So we're not just looking at 37 million, we're not just looking at 16 million.
You're 53, 54. But again, that's over 15, 20 years probably. So it's still a lot of, yeah. That's a lot of pipe.
And I just remind the council, when you first looked at these numbers 2 years ago, that was part of the reasoning for doing those rate increases, is to afford you the ability to do these replacements.
And back to that one sheet where I had that budget, it shows that you are spending just under $1 million in capital improvement for replacing water line every year, and you still had a surplus, so you could even put a little bit more into that. So, okay. We're also recommending some looping. If you remember those dead-end lines, I didn't put a map in here, but there's several locations where these that include $3.1 million for looping. Then there's some major projects that we looked at. The West Harmon Drive looping is on the south side of the lake. It only goes about halfway across or along the lake, and then it stops. And there's also a dead end on the island. So that project loops the south part of the lake to the island. This project would loop from 23rd Avenue all the way to the island. And that would not only do some looping, but it would also open up a significant area for development.
And both the West Harmon and the railroad looping are recommended, or if you did one, you wouldn't have to do the other? Really sure so?
Again, I would recommend the West Harmon for sure. This one is if you want to look at opening up for development. And there is some overlap in there where you, so. Okay. This is the north transmission line that Steve was talking about from the plant to the Burr Street tank, which we didn't do before. If we do the direct connections with BY, we would not recommend that. And then somehow I got that railroad looping in there twice, so you can. And this just itemizes all of those items. And again, we're not recommending that you do all this at one time. It's just so that you know what the cost is and that you need to be looking at it and planning for it. Questions?
I've got one other, and as Tim said, I had read this and sent him a list of questions. And one other question I have that wasn't addressed, and most of the ones I have were addressed, but in your analysis on the amount of water loss that we have estimated, Tim had one estimate up to 19%, and another one was like 11 or 12, but our current city software doesn't have the analysis to figure out if we're losing water through meters.
Nope.
So I guess a question to within the city is, we could probably pay back whatever software cost we had if we can have that and
And I usually put that in the
catch
report.
catch water losses. So if we're losing millions of gallons, we're buying the water, pumping it out, and we're losing it someplace, and we don't know where we're losing it, in the millions of gallons per year range.
Yep.
So something to think about from how we monitor, bill, and report back water, that we probably have leaks out there somewhere that.
And the cast iron pipe is typically where you'll find it. So,
Okay.
and with all the new meters, there isn't any reason that you shouldn't be able to do this. So.
Okay.
And we can total the amount of water we've sold through the new meters. Terry tells me we have about 150 meters left to replace is all. That would be out of approximately 5,600. So we've replaced 5,450, I guess, from that number. But we can't add up the total number of water we've sold. We can go back and find out how much water we've purchased from BY, and the number in between is very close to our water loss. Now, some of our water loss comes from flushing hydrants, water main breaks, things that we really don't meter or don't control. But we can get close to those numbers.
Well, I think when we did the report, one of the reasons that a number of the meters weren't installed were because people were not allowing you in. And last year you passed an ordinance or something
Yeah,
that,
we're trying to shame them into letting
Yeah.
us replace their meters now by charging them per month.
so I commend you for that.
So Tim and Stephanie, what do we do from here? Are you going to start maybe formulate some type of recommendations and come to budget hearings at that point? Is that what you're
Well,
talking about?
I think you've seen that happening already. Tim had the mixers in this year's budget. We've talked about the Burr Street Tower. I think this is really more of a roadmap for us to continue those capital improvements, and it'll also help, the future leadership too, as we all change in and out.
The Burr Street project also addresses one of the looping areas we wanted to correct, I think Terry said before.
Right,
So-
and we've already had conversations about the Burr Street Tower and where that alternate location could be. I think this is just additional information for that department to use as they do their capital improvement requests. But he's already doing a lot of the items that are listed as recommendations.
And I've been thinking about that Burr Street Tower. I thought I had it in the budget for a while to tear it down this year, and when I went to look at my budget, it was not there. But the other thought I'm having with that is once we do tear that tower down, I don't think anyone's going to let us put a new tower up in front of that new arts building. So I'm looking at places to do that.
I was wondering if we did put it up, like how artistic would it have to be?
Well, and I'm thinking Disco Lot, for example. There are other sites that are available.
And I think it's safe to say that all 15,500 and some people do not want lake water. We want to continue with our BY. It's very good water. Bev and the crew here 10 years ago did a very good job in bringing the BY in. So it just makes perfect sense to put our money into good, clean water and not one where we know that DNR comes back and says it's not even safe to swim, let alone drink.
Right.
So I really do appreciate you looking at it, but we know we made that decision 20-some years ago, and now it's time to continue to upgrade our system so we can get more water into town and look for the future. So thanks, Terry, for bringing that up, and Jeff, too.
And Jeff, I would assume that this would be a future council work session discussion, taking that information that you've received from the treatment plant and how we move forward with the different options that were presented. This study came out of one of your work sessions requesting, where can we go from here in the future? Yep.
Anything else? Thank you.
Okay, roll call.
Olson.
Here.
Rice.
Here.
Tronis.
Here.
Robinson. Here. Barrington. Here. Allen.
Here.
Charts. Here. Smith.
Here.
Okay, the next thing is a presentation of American Legion Award presented by Hugh Holmes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Don't have any business to conduct. We're just going to give an award so you can sit back, relax for a while, a couple minutes. Mr. Mayor, members of the Mitchell City Council, citizens of Mitchell, and guests, I'm Hugh Holmes with American Legion Post 18 here, and with me is Commander Norm Schoenfelder. And on behalf of Norm and myself, I thank you for this opportunity to present the American Legion Post 18 Law Enforcement Officer of the Year. Post 18 is here tonight to honor one public servant for his outstanding service to Mitchell and the surrounding area. The individual has been well-rounded and has exceeded duty requirements of his position, have demonstrated a distinct pattern of community service with professional achievement. The nomination was forwarded to the commander of the 6th District at the Department of South Dakota for further competition, and he got beat out by a deputy sheriff. Sorry. But since he is a public servant, we feel that he should be awarded the award here with his, you don't hire or fire him, but whatever. But Post 18 Law Enforcement Officer of the Year is Detective Brian Larson. He has been employed with the department for 5 years and has been an investigator for 2 years. He takes great pride in the work he does and is willing to do any tasks that are assigned to him. He has the ability to communicate and work with members of the community, both victims and the offenders, from all walks of life. He treats them with respect and dignity. Due to his communications and respectfulness skills, he makes the offenders feel comfortable, therefore obtaining confessions. You don't see that on TV. Brian also assists patrol officers and other detectives in cases that they need assistance. He is a trained firearms instructor and a new officer trainer. He is also a member of the Metro Police Department Emergency Response Unit. Brian is married to Paula, who's right here, and has 2 stepsons and 3 cats. Post 18 Law Enforcement Officer Year is, for 2017, is Detective Brian Larson.
Congratulations, Brian. Thank you, American Legion. Okay, next is the approval of the consent agenda. Items appearing on the consent agenda may be removed by a city council member for discussion at the beginning of the formal agenda items.
I had a question about all of the reports on dependable recycling. Can you just tell me what we're doing with all of that information?
Tracking it, I know that. I think we're getting, is that a monthly report, Tim, coming from Kevin, or is that a quarterly report?
Yeah, I've asked Kevin to track this information every month and keep it in a notebook. And some of the information will change. For example, one the mayor asked me about today, we checked into, which was electronics, televisions, computers, et cetera. There's, even though it's in the report, there's no contractual obligation to Dependable to recycle that material. None of the local recyclers, I'm told, will take it as well. So we're down to probably burying it or hauling it to Sioux Falls and paying them to take it off of our hands. So that may look like it's a reflection on Dependable, but nobody wants that stuff right now. It does, the commodities go up and down. Someday someone will want it. They did run an ad about 9 years ago saying they would take it, but that was entirely on their own. So we will just track this and bring it to your attention.
Yeah, and I think that was what I noticed as well, is that sometimes there may have been claims that were debatable as to whether they're valid or not. So I felt like this was, I just wanted to know what we were doing with this information.
Complaints,
Does
basically.
does this just come to the city, or do we make Dependable aware of this as well? Or?
Yeah, I know that Kevin was going to make, oh, there he is, was going to make Dependable in Aberdeen aware of it.
Yeah, we'll let, my name's Kevin Roth, street superintendent. We do make Mike aware of it, which is Mike Hale, the local contractor here, manager. Every time we get a complaint, we make him aware of it immediately. If we don't have no progress, then we go up to Mike in Aberdeen and let him take care of it. This is just like a quarterly report, kind of. It just kind of went through and lists the complaints that kind of come through the office. And then there was a little checklist on there, like the educational advertising. We haven't been given an expense record. They're supposed to spend $300 a month in, educational advertising. We haven't received any receipts or records that they're spending that.
I did see an ad in the paper.
Yeah, and there was some, but yeah, they haven't made us aware of a financial cost of that. And we're just kind of, things that are required on their contract, we're just going through here and just kind of making a checklist. We'll check it every month or whatever and, kind of keep going, updating it as things are updated.
So Kevin, when you tell them that they've missed places where there was recycling that should have been picked up, what is their response?
Well, sometimes it gets put out late, or the next day or something. They're good about going back same day that we call them, if not the next day, depending on what time it is. We call Mike, like I said, right away, and we let him know, okay, this one was missed, or
Sure.
put out late, can you go back and get it? Yep.
Great.
Thank you, Kevin.
Yep.
Is there a motion to approve the
Well, I
consent agenda?
just want to make one comment on the first and second penny sales and the third penny sales. We're hanging in there. 2017 is less than 2016 for both of them for the month of April, but we're still positive, and based on the state's comments, we're being positive is a really good thing. At least we're not down the percentages that the state is down. So still something to look forward to as we go into July and August.
Has any of that stuff become from Amazon yet? Are we getting any reporting from that yet?
We're never going to get a report that tells us exactly what the sales tax differences are from Amazon, and I don't know if you're going to be able to make a comparison because this year's lower
you
than
wouldn't know what
previous years. So I think you're going to have a bit of history to be able to make that comparison. I just want to remind everyone, you guys are probably tired of hearing this from me, when we're comparing to last year's numbers, just keep in mind that we ended last year $200,000 short of budget. So what we're saying is we anticipate ending this year the same short as we were last year, because we did not increase our sales tax projections from last year's budget.
Move to approve.
Any more discussion?
Don, sitting here, the gas and fuel bids, we had a new bidder that we hadn't seen, at least in the last year, I would guess. So just, we had 3 bidders this time instead of just the 2. So
The new bidder, I think it's Howe, and I don't have that, my computer open to read the printout, but they are the state bidder for this area.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Public comment? If not, roll call, please.
Olson.
Aye.
Rice.
Aye.
Thomas.
Aye.
Robinson. Barrington.
Aye.
Allen. Charks. Smith.
Aye.
Citizens' input. If you need to address the mayor and members of the city council on an item that was not on the agenda, excluding personnel items, please come forward to the podium and state your name and your concern. Presentations are limited to 3 minutes. Items will be considered, but no action will be taken at this time. Jessica?
Good evening. I'm Jessica Davidson. I'm the County Veteran Service Officer. Lately, I've been seeing a lot more in the paper, the city's concern on mental health and drug abuse or alcohol abuse. I do want to let the city know that there is free services to veterans and or possibly family members of veterans. This service is through the Vet Center. Last year, I went to a VA conference and was improving mental health with the community's involvement, and I was able to bring the Vet Center here. Excuse me. Drink a little too much coffee, so I'm trying to slow it down. But what it is that unlike the VA, the Vet Center does do individual and marriage counseling. So that's the other part here is I'm seeing all this. They have the services and resources. And what I hear out from the veteran community, because our county alone has 1,500 veterans in it, documented, that's not including those who maybe decide to relocate here after active duty, which lately we've had that influx. But it's like having, let me put it this way, you go out to overseas, you actually do not know your family for that time that you're gone. You come back, you have to readjust. Transition assistance program with the military does help, but it doesn't do always enough. So you have, let's say, that teenager, that's not gonna work. So, you're gonna be button heads or such, or trying to figure out your role in the family, and everybody's gonna have to try to figure out their roles again. That's what the Vet Center does, but it's free. And that's the other part that people don't realize is that the Vet Center makes it affordable. And so I asked them to give me a more condensed free packet. Like I said, I drank too much lattes today, so I'm a little shaky. But this is the information I want to get, because at the same time, if they're able to help people in the community who can't afford those services, or maybe their insurances don't provide it, maybe this is another option for there, and at the same time for this. So I just want to make this aware to the county and also to the other community members, and also council members and government employees. So thank you for your
Jessica, can you tell us where it's located?
It's actually, they do come to the county north office building. We gave them, the county was nice enough to give them an office to use every first and third Wednesday of the month. And so people can either walk in or they can call and make appointments at the Sioux Falls Vet Center.
And do you have a way of disseminating that information to those 1,500 vets that we have in our community?
We have done social media. We have informed all the service organizations. We have basically, by me helping veterans, last year I did over 200 awarded claims, which brought into the county alone and possibly surrounding counties over $300,000 that does get spent here, usually within. Those veterans, you do right by them. They inform other veterans. It's nice word of mouth, which is the best form of advertisement. Any other questions?
I think Military Services is also working with you, am I correct?
I'm sorry?
Ruth Regals?
She's with the Family Assistance Center, but we do work integrally, so if she knows a veteran who needs services, she can refer them to me. Just at the same time, if I know an active duty family member who needs services, I can refer to them. So.
I've got one question. Have you, I guess, made this same kind of announcement to, say, the court systems, any outreach with the state's attorney's office or defense attorneys in town?
The state's attorneys and the defense attorneys, they do know this because Secretary Zimmerman has tried to make it known about the services. A lot of the state offices know this. The VA tries to make it aware. Also, all county, tribal, veteran service officers try to make these services through the vet center or through the VA, aware for it in their counties and communities. Is that all? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jessica.
Oh, that's not a problem.
Donnie?
Steve, you made me think when you mentioned the gas and fuel bid. Actually, when I saw that bid, I thought it was a really good deal because you not only got the state bid, but House Oil actually is a property owner in Mitchell. So I was really.
I just recognized that, hey, we got a third bidder and we hadn't had one for a long time.
Yeah, but actually, when I saw that, I thought, they're local, they've been here for a long time, they actually own the truck stop, so I was happy to see that.
Don, before you leave, I just wanted to publicly recognize you for the amount of years of service. You just recently stepped down from the Planning Commission, and you were on City Council prior to that. How many years did you have involved in both those?
Oh, I think it's like Tim said, it was like BC or something.
Since the first or second decade.
Yeah, I think I started on council in '94, and then I took a few years off and then got on Planning Commission after 3 years on the council, so. But I don't like to think about all those years, so.
Yeah, well, we do appreciate it,
Well,
Tom. You put a lot of years in and a lot of work, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
We missed you on the planning
Thank you
and
for the
zoning.
letter too, Mayor, that was very nice.
Welcome. You deserved it. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
I have a quick announcement. Jessica Pickett, Community Services Director. We have some good news. Coburn's has decided to join the Senior Meals Dine Card, and they will be replacing the Rita's restaurant that has been closed. So they will offer a meal 7 days a week from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. And their choices of meals are a chicken meal with choice of salad, soup and sandwich, or their daily specials. So they have options of going there or to County Fair Deli now with our Senior Meals Dine Card.
Jessica, did you round them up or did they come to you?
Actually, thanks to our Downtown Thursdays, they were right across the street from us, and I went over and talked to him quick, and I brought up the idea to him. He said, absolutely. I went over the next week, and he signed the contract on the spot.
Well, that's great.
Great partnerships. And they start June 1st.
Is there more citizen input?
I've got a couple, if there's nobody else. Okay, I've got a couple things that I've been approached on. One of them is on Burr Street and the current construction and traffic, and it's a question I have, and maybe it's Lyndon and Tim. The temporary stoplights that they have out there aren't timed to anything, and question I've been asked is during the peak traffic times from 7 to 8:30 in the morning and around noon and around 4 to 6 p.m., if it's possible to have a police officer directing traffic during that time, because the traffic lights back up and are not timed, and you end up with, and I've only been told by 2 different people, but you end up with gridlock, and that the lights are timed, and so all the cars can't move that are there between the 2 sets of lights, and so then nothing moves. And if it's possible, and I don't know under contract, since it's a state project, if the city can direct traffic there or not, if it's possible, how much it would cost. But I think from a road rage standpoint, people getting in and out of town and that area at noon, that might be something if we could consider or at least look at. Well, I don't know if the lights can be coordinated since they're temporary and just on.
I don't know if they can be coordinated.
They're
We can
just
ask
on
them-
generator.
We can ask them on
running, aren't
timing.
they? Okay.
We can get that adjusted.
That was one question I had.
To
Another
bring an
question-
officer, we'd probably have to schedule them on overtime to guarantee they'd be there. So.
Okay. Another question I've been asked is, and we have development south of Norway and between the interstate and more people living there and more houses being there, of what are the city's options for any noise abatement, noise pollution things along the interstate. I know the federal guidelines and state Department of Transportation guidelines, but is there any right-of-way or anything in there that the city could plant trees or do anything? The last state and federal mandated one that I'm aware of was south of 57th Street in Sioux Falls, Lincoln County. They made them put up the sound barrier walls, and basically it's a federal requirement and the city pays for it because they violate the noise standards. Now, I doubt we violate the noise standards on Interstate 90, but I think 80 miles an hour is noisier than 75, and we had construction there the previous 2 years, and so the speeds were probably only 65 miles an hour. But now, thank goodness, it's nice and wide open, and everybody's going 80, and I had a comment that it's noisier than it was in the past years. Now, obviously, they made the choice and bought a house there, but my question is does the city have any leeway of planting trees or doing anything in those areas?
To my knowledge, we have zero right-of-way on the north side of I-90. We do have some right-of-way, Flint Street, on the south side of I-90, but that's generally industrial development on the south side. It would take a conversation with the DOT about what their setbacks and clearances are for example, for a tree belt.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, I did have one other quick thing here. Last Wednesday night, the Mitchell High School had their athletic banquet, and one of the awards that they give out is the Bill Timmons Fan of the Year Award. And I thought this was kind of cool that the Booster Club selected the Mitchell Kernel community. So everybody that has ever been to a sporting event in the last year was a recipient of the award. I happened to be there, so they asked me if I would come and receive the plaque on behalf of the whole community. So I thought I would pass that on to you, Mayor, and thought that was kind of neat that they, everybody that's ever attended this year, they were happy to see them. So keep that in mind for next year.
You know, this should go up in the Corn Palace somewhere.
I think it should.
When's the group picture?
Right after the council meeting. Okay. Okay, is there any more citizen input? If not, we'll move on for action to approve the amended application of Mitchell Main Street and beyond for a special event permit, consumption permit, noise permit from Main Street between 6th and 7th Avenue to 6th Avenue between Main Street and Lawler Street to include Northwestern Energy's parking lot for June 1st, 2017.
Members of the council, I can just briefly tell you the reason for the change in location is due to the change in the schedule for construction because Main Street will not be available. So they are asking to move the event to the other location. We had
Just a location change.
Yep,
correct?
this one's just the location change, correct.
Move to approve. Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next thing on the agenda is the South Dakota Department of Environment and Natural Resources, who recognizes the city of Mitchell for drinking water compliance for 2016. They sent me this Secretary's Award for Drinking Water Excellence. I just kind of want to read what the letter says. It's from the Secretary. It's the Secretary's Award, and it says, "Dear Mayor Toomey, congratulations to you from DENR. For 14 consecutive years that the City of Mitchell Public Water System has met the requirements of the Safe Drinking Water Act and the state of South Dakota's regulations. 14 consecutive years of supplying safe drinking water to the public is a remarkable achievement. It is our pleasure to present to you Secretary's Award for Drinking Water Excellence that recognizes your system and the system's operations specialists that have demonstrated excellence in water system management and maintenance. Thank you for all that you have done these past 14 years to maintain safe drinking water for your consumers. Signed by Mark S. Mayer, Administrator of the Drinking Water Program. So I want to give this certificate to Rich Polrice. You want to step forward, Rich? Okay, next is the committee reports. Traffic Commission.
Okay, Traffic Commission met tonight at 6 PM. First item on the agenda, Dakota Wesleyan University requests a parade permit for Saturday, September 30th, 2017, beginning at 10 a.m. until approximately 11 a.m. And the parade route would begin on Main Street. It would go from 9th to 1st Avenue, with the following streets blocked off beginning at 5 a.m. for the parade, as well as cars removed from the following streets. It's North Lawler Street from 7th to 9th, East 9th Avenue from Lawler to Main, and North Main Street from 9th down to 1st. In addition, Dakota Wesleyan University requests to use the parking lot between 9th and 7th Avenue and Lawler and Kimball Street, also known as the Disco parking lot, again for staging area, which will include no public parking in this lot beginning at 5 a.m. This was approved. Second, First Dakota National Bank at 500 East Norway requested no parking zones in both the east and west driveways to the bank, with no parking 25 feet on each side of the driveways. The driveways are located on the north side of Norway. This was also approved. Next, Dave Epp requested a parade permit for the 5th annual Neil Epp Memorial Poker Run. The event will be held Saturday, June 24th, with a 12:30 p.m. start. The parade will begin at Clockworks, located at 915 South Kimball, and travel west on Havens to the west end of town. This was approved. Next, the Corn Palace Stampede Rodeo Committee requested a parade permit for the rodeo parade scheduled for Saturday, July 15th, 2017, beginning at 10:30 a.m. In preparation for the parade, the Corn Palace Stampede Rodeo Committee requests that beginning at 4:30 a.m., no vehicles be allowed to park on either side of the street along the parade route, as well as the area on Main Street that is used to line up the parade entries. This would encompass the following streets: Main Street from 12th Avenue south to 1st Street if there's no construction. If there is construction, it would go to 7th Avenue, and then it would go from 7th Avenue west to Raleigh, from Raleigh Street south to 6th, from 6th Avenue east to Main, and then from Main Street south to 1st again, and then 1st Avenue east to Lawler, and Lawler Street north to 7th. And this, both these routes were approved. Next, the Heart and Soul Cancer Walk Run Board Directors requested that the City of Mitchell close 8th Street from Minnesota to Iowa and the Cadwell entrance to 8th Street on Friday, June 16th, 2017, from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. for the Cancer Walk Run event. This request was approved. And we also had a request to change 2nd, 3rd, and 4th Avenues from one-way traffic to two-way traffic from Raleigh Street to Lawler Street. And this was approved with also the addendum of placing stop signs at Lawler and Raleigh in between these streets, and with changing the stop signs to 36-inch stop signs. And this was all approved. We then adjourn.
Motion to approve it?
Move to approve.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
That was only one report, though. Don't we need to do all of it?
Well, there's some
With the 3rd, 4th, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th Street in here, maybe we should do it separate from. Yeah, so.
So I seconded it.
I'm sorry, what? You seconded it? Okay. Any discussion?
Well, you know, I'm with Dave. If this were everything, then I would vote no. I think it's going to cause confusion, but maybe it's confusion worth having to boost Main Street businesses. And I think there's a case to be made for both sides, but I'm not in favor of expanding it beyond the business corridor. So I'm going to vote yes, with the idea it's not going to affect residences at this time.
We have a motion second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Okay, Public Health and Safety met at 6:30. We had 2 agenda items. The first was Heart and Soul fireworks permit on June 16th, and this is similar to what has been done in the past by the middle school. And if we have any burn ban, or any burn bans due to lack of moisture, et cetera, we would have time to consider that at the June 5th meeting. So that was approved unanimously by voice vote. The second item was an MTI burn permit for their west, I guess called the Butler building location where they do the Butler machine training, which is west of the box plant. And we amended that permit to go to the end of June. It had only stated to the end of May, and it will only be done in conjunction with the fire department and acceptable weather. So we wanted to give them enough time for that. It was also approved unanimously on voice vote, and we adjourned at 6:39. Second.
Any discussion? Not all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I'm losing my voice here. Sidewalk Committee.
Sidewalk Committee met tonight at 6:40. We had one item on the agenda to discuss the responsibility of adjoining property owner duties along the Burr Street corridor due to sidewalk and the bike trail. There was some discussion about the layout in which Jay Peppel from the DOT said it would be a large cost to redesign and change. We discussed current code and the plan that the city would maintain the interior sidewalk where there is a double sidewalk and the area within the interstate. Nate was asked to come up with a cost of what it would cost to maintain and clean those sidewalks that the city would be taking care of. And it was for discussion only, no motion was made.
Move to approve. Second.
Discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Public Works Committee.
Okay. Public Works started at 7:36 this evening. We had SPN here tonight giving us a presentation on our water study. Things that we discussed was water demand, water source, water storage, and water distribution. Some keynotes, roughly on average over the last 11 years, 686 million gallons of water we use per year on average. Another note was the water treatment plant in the last 13 years roughly only produced about 500,000 gallons of water, basically from understanding on one day during the last 13 years. One of the suggestions were that we would meet with BY and make sure that we're all on the same page on exact costs for some of the things and recommendations from SPN. One of the things they mentioned us to keep in mind is to replace the pipes within the next 15 to 20 years, estimating cost to be somewhere in the 60 million plus range. And of course, that is in today's dollars. Obviously, additional information, please see the presentation and the 247 pages, whatever it was. Otherwise, with that, Public Works did finish up at 8:20.
Move to approve.
Discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Hearings. First hearing is on the application of the Palace City Lions Club for a special event malt beverage license located at the Horsemen's Sports Arena for the Corn Palace Rodeo on July 13th through the 16th, 2017. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next is on the application of the Palace City Lions Club for a special event malt beverage license located at the Horsemen's Sports Arena for the Miller Light Bull Bash on August the 16th, 2017.
Motion approved. Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Carries. Next is on the application of Overtime Steakhouse and Sports Bar for a special event liquor license located at the Overtime Event Center, 812 North Raleigh, Mitchell, on May 27, 2017, for a wedding.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next is on the application of Overtime Steakhouse and Sports Bar for a special event liquor license located at the Overtime Event Center, 812 North Raleigh, Mitchell, on June 3rd, 2017, for a wedding.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next is on the application of Overtime Steakhouse and Sports Bar for a special event liquor license located at the Overtime Event Center, 812 North Raleigh, Mitchell, on June 10th, 2017, for a wedding. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Entertain a motion for the city council to recess and sit as a board of adjustment.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next is on the action to set the date for the Board of Adjustments for June 5th, 2017. Doug Daly, applicant, has applied for a conditional use permit to construct a professional office building at 1408 North Sanborn Boulevard, legally described as Lot 7 and 8, Block 13, Capitol Edition, City of Mitchell, Davidson County, South Dakota. The property is zoned high-density residential district R4.
Move to set the date.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action to set the date for a Board of Adjustment hearing on June 5th, 2017. Doug Daly, applicant, has applied for a backyard variance of 4 feet versus 25 feet as required to construct a professional office building at 1408 North Sanborn Boulevard, legally described as Lot 7 and 8, Block 13, Capitol Edition, City of Mitchell, Davidson County, South Dakota. The property is zoned R4, high-density residential district. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Entertain a motion for the Board of Adjustment to adjourn and the City Council to reconvene in regular session.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next is the action to approve the application for renewal of malt beverage licenses.
Glendon, any issues?
The only one on here was the Highland Travel Plaza, has had 2 failures in the past 12 months. And I believe both the employees at the time were not CAS certified. And I believe the representatives from the Highland Travel Plaza are here. I think they've made some arrangements for some changes since that time.
Hi, my name is Carrie Lepore. I'm the general manager of Highland Travel Plaza. We've made some changes to our terminal system, our Ruby registers number 2. We have put a block on our registers that allows the cashier to prevent an illegal sale of alcohol and tobacco. This is not a citation that we take lightly. Both employees are CAS certified. One was certified within 13 days, 12 days after the violation. She was a new employee. She miscalculated the math in her head. So to prevent any further citations, illegal sales, we've also purchased scanners to be able to scan all state IDs and to take the error out for human error. And like I said, this is something that we do training. We do train on. Everybody's human, and unfortunately, it's always a new employee. I've been there 9 years. Just so happened, 24-month period. My cashiers, they asked for the ID, but they didn't follow through with keying the date in the register. The first time that this happened, we purchased scanners and went to a scanning system. Unfortunately, with technology changing faster than what the retailers can keep up with, they did not work properly and only scanned about 50% of the licenses. So, like I said, we've done everything as far as management, owner team, to prevent this from happening again. And I have some examples if you'd like to see on how we put these blocks in place.
Lyndon, I just have a question for you. Aren't the licenses now materially different for people who are under the age of 21?
They are, and the license was asked for and presented both times. So the
Right.
clerk did physically view both times.
Right.
So
Shoot, the
did
cashier was
clerks
from
just
Virginia.
not know the difference between the licenses? I understand about the math. When I
Yeah.
was in the legislature, I was carding out at the Bull Bash, and that was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be.
Right. She was from Virginia. She was new to the state, so she didn't know the different states. I'm from Louisiana.
Right,
It's
sure.
not red from that state. So she was CAS certified within 45-day period, but it wasn't until March 22nd. The police department offers the class once a month. And unfortunately, that's why she didn't know the date. And she tried to calculate it in her head. And, you know, so as a manager, you know, we try to train these people and stuff like that, you know.
I have another question for you, Lyndon. Is there a way that we could get examples of a minor license and an adult license that would then be available to simply have posted at counters, or does that violate privacy?
That is provided at the CAS class.
Yes.
That's what they all get. One's horizontal, one's vertical. It's very obvious.
So is that posted at, I mean, so I can look and go, ooh, that's the wrong direction, I can't sell to that person.
It's not posted at our cashier, at our cashier counter. It is posted at the CAS class. They have a book that you can purchase that have different states' licenses, that they would know that it's red. That's a red flag, you know, don't sell, but at the time it wasn't posted.
Well, what you just said lit a light bulb under me.
Right.
I'm just thinking South Dakota sales, but you got people coming from all over, so you wouldn't necessarily
Right.
know.
Right.
Don Myers, Myers Oil Company. Mel, you brought up a really good point. Since you're a teacher, I can see where you're going with this, is that I can remember when they originally came out with this training, they used to do role-playing so that new people would kind of get a feel for what the conditions are and how you should react when somebody says, well, I'm old enough, I just didn't, you know, I didn't do this and I didn't do that. And I think they've gone away from that, and anymore, the training is only, you know, what you read. They don't have interaction, and personally, as far as because of, you know, having more than one convenience store, I've always felt that if we could have more scenarios or interaction when they're actually in the classroom, that it would go a long ways as far as teaching these people, you know, what the state and city are expecting.
Well, it used to be a lot harder because everybody's license looked the same.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
But, and then what Carrie said was that, you know, we this new chip credit card, well, at the time, over a year and a half ago, we had to do the software for the programming of the V chip, EMV. So we spent $11,000 per convenience store, which provided, or we were told that you were supposed to be able to swipe the card and it would tell you whether they were old enough, you know, except the software only worked 50% of the time.
Yeah,
So then they've made improvements on that, but then they said, well, yeah, but the only problem you have now is that the scanner that you're using doesn't tie in with the software that we have. So then we also had to purchase new scanners. So it's like the technology that we were relying on wasn't keeping up with the actual, so it almost had to, we almost had to go back to saying, you know, it always comes back to human error, and the only way you're gonna address human error is to, you know, train them in scenario, you know, certain scenarios that this is what's going to happen. But now you have software where they demand to see the driver's license, they swipe it, and it will tell them, it reads all driver's license. In the past, where a lot of employees would circumvent it was, they could enter manually any birth date, their own, and that's how they were getting around it. So there again, it was the employee not the equipment that was causing our problems, so.
So does it ding, the registered ding, or what's it do?
Now, I now have a block set up. They have got to enter the birth date in. These new scanners that we purchased, they will have to scan it. There's no way they can go further, complete the cell. It will
Override.
prevent
They can't
them, they
override.
can't override the system no more, is what we put in place to prevent this from happening again, you know. Unfortunately, like I said, human error, new people, girl from Virginia, and wasn't CAS certified yet, and all of our people are CAS certified. We put the blocks in place. We do take this very seriously, and trying to do everything that we can to be 100% compliant.
We had a situation that was similar to this last year, and I think that we talked at that time that, that unfortunately, so much of this it's not the owner's fault, it's
Right.
not the manager's fault, it's something that happens with staffing. And I think that we all collectively agreed that it's hard for us to blame you guys for this when we see that you've made progress and done what you can to prevent it from happening again, so.
I gotta make a correction here. You guys are not actually on the list tonight. We just looked. Yours is coming up, so you're gonna have another chance to prove yourself.
Okay, great.
Okay? You actually have the malt, or you actually have liquor, right?
We have
Instead of malt beverage?
No,
This is just malt.
the package liquor.
package liquor. We have a package liquor.
Right, and that's gonna be at the end of the year, not mid-year.
We
didn't get a notice, and we just,
An officer came today. and-
officer
I
came
did.
in today and told
I
us
did, 'cause
about
I
it.
got notified you had 2 violations. That's why I
Right.
wanted to make sure. But
Right.
now, looking right now, you guys are not actually on the list, so I apologize. You'll have another chance to prove yourself before now and then, but you've already presented your case, I guess. These things
Plowed the
will
ground
come up.
well.
It won't change the fact that it happened, but,
Right, right.
yeah.
Well, should I send in the pictures of the new system, or?
No, you're all right.
No, we appreciate you taking it very serious, though,
Thank you.
but
Thank
I
you
have
so
to
much.
apologize. 'Cause I read it wrong and
Okay.
provided not the
Move to
correct
approve
information.
the malt liquor licenses.
Second.
Thank you.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Abstain?
Motion carries. Next is the action to award bid for wastewater force main Phase 3, city project number 2017-12.
Tim McGannon, the staff report in your packet, and my eyes are about to give out here, but talks about we had 7 bids. The low bidder on this was Metro Construction for bid Schedule A with alternate B and bid Schedule B. And I just want to explain what that is. Bid Schedule A with alternate B is an open trench dig. The other method we allowed them to bid on was to bore this so they didn't have to tear out a shelter belt full of volunteer trees and shrubs on that slope. This came in quite a bit lower just to open dig it rather than to bore it, so we awarded it as an open dig. And then the other Schedule B is to provide a pump pit to bypass pump while we're working on the piping and on the station. It was bid as a separate item in case we could get better bids by them just going out and soliciting, for example, Dakota Pump to do this. So we are recommending award to Metro Construction for bid Schedule A with alternate B and bid Schedule B in the amount of $480,619.70, which is approximately $100,000 under engineer's estimate.
Move to approve.
Second. And the timing to start is?
Probably in the next several weeks. They'll have to get pumps and pipe and everything set up and ordered and mobilized.
And complete by November?
Yes, we think so because we're bidding another phase of this, which can't start until this is over, and that's for the interior piping.
Part, okay.
Right.
So the extra 100,000, are we going to try to do something else this year, or what?
Well, we still have another segment of this, and actually the engineer's estimate for the entire project is over what we have budgeted, but since we're 100,000 under here, we're hoping for good things.
Okay, we had a motion, we had a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Approve minnow removal from city lagoons, contract city project number 2017-33.
This was discussed at length between city staff, particularly Stephanie and Justin and myself. We had a city employee who wanted to pay us to remove minnows from our lagoons. Really doesn't do any good for the city removing the minnows unless we can collect some money for them to do that. I had a hard time wanting to advertise and do this if it was a city employee who was going to be the only bidder on it. But about a month after this discussion, I had another party who runs a fishing service out of Platte Creek area say that he needed minnows and he wanted to see if he could take minnows out of our lagoons as well. So we're not under any requirement to advertise this in the paper because it's such an inexpensive project, but we did advertise it on our webpage and we sent out letters to people we knew were interested. And Lauren Skinner was the only bidder, as it turned out, and I don't know that he discussed this with the Platte people, but I suspect he's going to be furnishing minnows to their operation. So Lauren has written us a check for $1,600, and to take minnows out of it is very labor intensive, and I guess we're recommending award to Lauren.
So do we have 3 years' worth of minnows in that?
Oh, yes. We used to have a vendor do this in the past, and as I recall, we collected between $500 and $1,000 from that vendor, and it hasn't gone on for several years, but waterfowl bring minnows and or minnow eggs into the lagoons, and they're quite prevalent in there.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next is action to authorize application for conservation collaboration grant funds.
Yes, this is the Conservation Collaboration Grant Fund for a watershed coordinator. I did bring some experts here to talk to you about and answer your questions for you. We'll start with Jeff Vanderbilt from NRCS, and he's going to talk about the watershed programs that are available, some of which are as a result of our work with FIRA.
Good evening. How are you guys this evening? Good. Glad to hear that. You guys are wearing me out, and I'm used to meetings with being working for the government. But my name's Jeff Vanderwilt. I'm the Assistant State Conservationist for Programs with NRCS, and I work out of our state office in Huron, South Dakota. However, I live here just south of town. So I'm a county resident, but not a city resident. But that aside, I've been working with the TAT committee, the technical advisory team as well, and also I have one of our programs that we have available through our Farm Bill programs is our National Water Quality Initiative, which I've given you a handout on that. And what that is it's our water quality program that really targets certain watersheds in order to help try to clean those watersheds up and get them off the 303D list. Which is the state DNR's list of impaired water bodies. So what I provided you is just a little bit of background information on that program. It's certainly not everything that there is to know about that program, but it does give you a little bit of background. Heidi Rentz is our local district conservationist. She works out of our office here in Mitchell, located right behind Coburn's in case you don't know where it's at. And we work with private landowners on private land to do conservation work in order to, in this case, improve water quality in Firesteel Creek. So with that, and I don't know how far you want me to go, Nathan, but with that, I've been talking with the technical advisory team about this grant that NRCS is also offering. And with that grant, we would create this watershed coordinator position that would work out of our office with our employees. Just to give you a little bit of background, we used to partner with another state agency that is no longer able to afford that position. However, in talking with the technical advisory team, I did mention that we are offering this grant, in which case we would probably find a way to help fully fund that position as well. So Mayor Toomey and Nathan and Mike Blowlett and myself have visited a little bit about that for sure, along with the technical advisory team about that grant. So I don't know if there's specific questions you guys would like me to answer, but I'm here to answer any questions you guys might have.
How much is the grant?
Well, we're offering up to $2.5 million. Now, I don't know, I'm going to leave that up to these guys to tell you how much they're putting in for, because it is my agency, and I'm not going to tell you how much to apply for.
No, I'll just answer. It's about 75,000 for the position, plus I still have to figure out the travel expenses and office supplies, just minor expenses. I'll
So
add it
this
to
would be
that.
fully funded and no cost to the city for how long?
For 3 years.
3 years.
Yep.
And what happens to that person after 3 years?
Hopefully they're a good grant writer and they can keep staying. No, but we would probably apply to the grant again if it's available, and if not, the position would be terminated. Yep. And Mike can fill you in on some more information.
Yeah, we had a little bit of a positive thing happen last week. I'm Mike Blowlett, the chairman of the technical advisory team. After Jeff had come to the meeting that we had 2 weeks ago, we kind of started this conversation, and I reached out to the local Pheasants Forever chapter, and they're willing to kick in $10,000 per year for the 3 years. So their total contribution will be $30,000. It does a couple things. It shows a great deal of support from a pretty active chapter in our community, and it also really makes our grant application that much stronger when you match federal dollars with non-federal dollars. So, and I suspect once the new farm bill is written that this person could hopefully write themselves a new job with the new opportunities available, and that we could afford to keep this person on. But I just hope you allow us to try and write this grant and to get somebody out there to help some landowners in our watershed. So thank you. If you have any questions, we'll...
So if we allow us to apply, what's the timing? When would we know? When would the grant start?
The due date is May 26th, and selection should be made probably within a couple weeks after that date.
Oh,
And then, so I'm going to say July, August.
We'd know this summer?
Oh, yes, absolutely. You asked about the cost, and maybe I need to be clear on one thing just to make sure that you are all fully aware how this works, and I apologize to my committee members because we never discussed this either. But this grant is a reimbursement grant, and what I want to mean by that is the city's going to have to pay that person for the 1 month, and they submit an invoice to NRCS, and NRCS would then reimburse the city for that amount that they invoice. So it overall is still a no-cost grant, but I want you to understand that you would have to front the
We have to
cost.
cash flow it, and the government will pay us immediately, I'm taking it?
Absolutely, yes, with the full faith of President Trump. We keep borrowing money, it must be.
That is how state grants work as well.
Yeah.
Do we have qualified candidates locally for this position?
That is a tough question, I guess. We'd have to, sorry. I think the timing's all right because a lot of seasonal people that may have found or graduated this year from college may be taking seasonal positions now, looking for something like this. So we'd be coming into this looking for a candidate in the fall. It's probably pretty decent timing to have a pretty deep pool for somebody that's willing to come and help our watershed, or in our community, so.
This is just still not the whole watershed. It's the shed, but it's pasture that could be 5 miles away from the shed going into it?
That's correct, yep. It's what we call, it's a hydrologic unit, which is all that water within that area drains into Firesteel Creek. So water that falls outside of the shaded areas on that map actually flows into other creeks. Yep. You're welcome.
Move to approve.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Mike. Nate? Next is to authorize mayor as a signatory and approve easement agreement number 2017-14 with Slothman Trust, WWTP Force Main Phase 3, City Project Number 2017-12.
This is an easement on the north side of I-90 for the previously approved Phase 3 wastewater project. It all goes through Schlafman's pasture and was negotiated between myself and the Schlafmans. $2,000 for the easement, and it's a temporary easement. We'll revert back to him after the project is completed.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action on Resolution R 2017-34, a plat of 5-A, Block 2, MLC Edition, a subdivision of Block 3, Morning View addition to the City of Mitchell, Davidson County, South Dakota.
This was presented to the Planning Commission at their last meeting and did recommend approval of it. You probably noticed that it's 5A because the original one was 5, and they made a little slight adjustment, added some additional footage to accommodate a duplex. But other than that, it's following the plan pretty close. So.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next is the action on Resolution R 2017-35, plat of Track 1 and Track 2 of BSD addition in the west half of the southwest quarter and in the southeast quarter of Section 27, and in the southwest quarter, the northeast quarter, and the northwest quarter of Section 34, all in Township 104 North, Range 60 west of the Principal Meridian, Davidson County, South Dakota.
This too was presented to the Planning Commission for their consideration, and they did recommend approval, pending county approval, since it also has to go through the county. Basically, it's that large parcel, they're subdividing it into two. It just recently sold, I understand, so.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next is action on Resolution R 2017-36, plat of Lot 12, Tract J, Wild Oak Golf Club addition to the City of Mitchell, Davidson County, South Dakota.
Again, this was presented to the Planning Commission, and they did recommend approval.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next is action to approve Resolution R 2017-37, a resolution providing for the creation of City of Mitchell Tax Increment District Number 23.
Included in your packet was a staff report that was explaining the TIF, or the basis behind the TIF plan, I guess I would say, as well as a resolution and your current city ordinance. We do have several people here that can answer questions for the council or walk you through the process that you have to go through for approving the TIF or considering approval on the TIF. The only point that I would make is I did have a couple changes to this from when I first sent it out, and those were highlighted with the light blue text. So if you look at those would have been changes from the first time you saw the total TIF overview for the City of Mitchell. So it was after planning and zoning. Nope. Yep. Just after planning and zoning meeting. So how would you like to proceed with this? Would you like me to have Toby come up and give an overview on what the TIF plan involves? You want to talk about the development? Or Justin, you want to lead? I don't know.
Well, I mean, this went through TIF committee, it went through planning. I mean, it's the Vantage Point, it's new building, new employees.
Basically, this TIF is going to allow Vantage Point to expand a 25,000 square foot addition onto their building and create up to 50 full-time jobs. There was a handout on your desk, 4 hours ago, for you to review that talked about the economic impact of the proposed development. We did do some things in this TIF differently in that it is overlapping with an existing TIF, so if something happened where the increment wasn't there to pay for the first TIF, TIF number 23 would have to pay off that first existing TIF first. There is a maximum dollar amount that's established as part of the TIF at $655,000 or 16 years, which means the TIF will automatically go away when either one of those items are hit. So if the TIF's been in place for 16 years and it's only generated $500,000, it's still going to dissolve at that point. We did require as part of the development plan that the TIF would have to be classified by the state of South Dakota as economic development. If that did not happen for some reason, the TIF would cease to exist. We have been assured that that will be the case. It's already been reviewed by the Department of Revenue and Pier. We did require that Vantage Point would waive the discretionary formula as part of the agreement with the TIF. And then there's a pass-through of funds. This is different. I feel like I've talked about this a lot of times, but I know it's a different audience every time. So, yep. Yep. So it's a little bit different because there will not be bonds taken out on this TIF or debt associated with it. What will happen is Mitchell Area Development Corporation will serve as a pass-through organization. The city will receive the TIF increment like we always do. It goes into a special fund, and then we pass that over to development, and then they in turn pass it along to Vantage Point as long as the criteria that they have established in their employment agreement are being met. So we have to see that development happen in that area as well as the job creation happening within a time frame that they establish with Mitchell Area Development Corporation.
And so will there be some sort of review process that the council will see annually or something on the criteria being met?
Yeah, and the good thing about the way that TIFs work, because we aren't going out front or going up front and going out and taking out debt associated with this TIF, we're going to let the increment generate and then pass it along. So the first, increment payment that you'll see will probably be 2 years out at a minimum. So we're already going to see construction happening. You're going to see that expansion of the building happening. And then by the time you get into years 3 and 4 of us actually having that increment accrued, we're going to see where they're at with their job creation. So it will be an ongoing annual review. And yep. And there will be, the good thing about the way this was structured as well is that if for some reason you are 5 years into this TIF and you see that no construction has happened, no job creation has happened, at that point the city could withhold that increment payment over to development. You could require additional conversations with both development and Vantage Point and the city at the table talking about where do we go from here.
So we finally got some leverage.
I believe that the way that this TIF is structured, it answered the majority of the concerns that we've heard from the city council over the last 3 years, and still encouraging the development to happen. We know Vantage Point, they're a local company. We want to see them bring these high-paying jobs to the city of Mitchell, so we tried to structure that in a way that the council could say yes and see that development happen.
Steve, we asked in there is, when do we see the 40 jobs? Is there any incremental measurement to your point? It's not until the 5th year. There's nothing written in that TIF. Just to year 5.
Yep, that's between the employment agreement between the development corporation and Vantage Point. So let's say they get 3 years into that 5 year and something happens where they need to have an additional conversation where maybe it's going to take them 6 or 7 years to get to that 5 year point. Well, it just brings everybody back to the table at that time for that conversation to occur.
So Dave and I were able to sit in on the whole presentation, and I know our minds are getting a little mush here tonight. I really would hate that we wouldn't bring Don up at some point, but maybe we get by with not doing it. He's shaking.
Well, we made Toby drive from Pier, so I think you should have to get up too.
Well, that's true too.
Mine looks good right there.
But there is a couple unique, as Stephanie has pointed out, is the fact that there's no outlay of the ability or that we have to fund up front. It's basically being paid by the developer, and then they're reimbursed as the money comes in. So that's very unique. So we are not bonding, or we're not finding or needing to have funds. It's all taken care of. And the other thing that is worth noting is the fact that they do have a facility in North Carolina that they could do this, and as far as packaging this together, it's made it as such that they do want to expand in Mitchell and as the ability. And to reiterate what Stephanie just said too is, if you guys all know that when you build a commercial building, you've got the ability to phase it in over 5 years. I think it is 20%. And so they are waiving that, so they'll be paying real estate taxes on 100%. You guys probably all picked up on that, but it might be worth repeating. So that was just a couple things, and Toby, you could fill in the rest of the holes.
I think, Mayor, members of the commission, just one other thing to point out in here, you'll see that there's a sentence in here, was it, I think, last week when you guys passed a resolution to refinance TIF number 9, being that that's going to go to tax exempt under the city. Should there be any shortfall of that revenue, TIF number 23 acts as a belt and suspenders approach, just to make sure that that one gets paid off at the correct amount of time and there's no liability for the city side on that part. But really, everything that we talked about in the MOU a couple weeks ago has been laid out here in the TIF plan itself. The developer's agreement's been constructed, just needs to have the final legal review on that part. MADC has entered into agreement with Vantage Point, so this just concludes it as far as the final step, passing the resolution that's before you tonight. And I think we had a change in the legal description. Did that make it in there, Justin?
I don't think we've got the updated in the packet, but we'll make sure the proper legal's in there.
And so
we'll just make sure when we make the motion tonight, if the council's so inclined to approve it, just approve it with the amended legal description.
Yeah. So it's everything that was set out in the MOU is now in the plan before you. And I can ask or answer any specific questions there are some.
The only question I got asked over the weekend is, where are they building on? And on the north side of the building?
Yeah, it's on the,
Yes.
on the north side in that vacant lot.
Between the lot and Cemetery Road.
Otherwise known as the right side to Toby, if I look at the map.
When you're at the front door, it's on
Yes.
the right side?
The right side.
So what are you looking for?
Motion. Motion.
Then I will move that we approve TIF number 23. Resolution. Thank you. I'm sitting here reading through all this and I'm scanning to find where it says what it is. I move approval.
Super.
With the amended legal description.
With the amended legal description, yes.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Mayor, if I could just really jump in here real quick. For one of our work sessions going forward, we've had a lot of discussions on TIF and how it does benefit the community, and we just approved number 23. Stephanie did a nice job on the TIFs that are still alive out there, and really what it, that is a great document. The other thing that I think would be worthy of going through and at least pointing out is the TIFs that have paid off, and then what has brought to the community. And again, there's some people that I don't think quite understand TIFs, and so that's why they really don't like them. But it's a little difficult to miss something that you don't have to begin with. So anyway,
I have started putting that together, the other ones that have been paid off. I got the list from Neil, and we do have all of the developers' agreements now too. So I'm putting it together. It'll just take a little bit more time.
And Brian's been with us from the very beginning, and I know he remembers number 1, and now we're up to the 23rd. But anyway, I think as a community, it would really be good to show the impact that we've had and how we've leveraged this ability to do the improvement of business environment in our town. So and I knew Stephanie was working on that, so I'm just kind of anxious to see it, to tell you the truth.
And just as an update, we're still continuing to review the remainder of the existing TIFs for any other cost-saving approaches that we can take. As you know, you just refinanced TIF number 9. We did the Highline Event Center, gosh, was that last year already? Yeah, last year. So we're still reviewing those, and we'll continue to do so as we move forward.
Thank you, Toby.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you for coming, Don.
I know you've already voted. My name is Jay Larson, and I'm chairman of the Planning Commission. And I've been on the Planning Commission for 23 of these now. And this is probably one of the best ones that we've looked at. There's a couple others that you've worked on in the last few years, and one of them that I moved to Mitchell in 1978, and there was a vacant lot across the street from what was then the junior high. And without a TIF that was approved just a couple of years ago, that lot would still be vacant. So we've done a lot of things. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you, Jay. Okay. Next is the first reading on ordinance number O 2017-06, supplemental appropriations.
The ordinance in front of you has 3 additional changes beyond the previous supplemental appropriations we did earlier this year. The first one is due to the grant or the gift that was announced at a recent city council meeting to purchase speed radars. The second one is Jessica is the Community Services Department's board is requesting to be able to purchase a freezer so that they can do freezer meals for the part of their nutrition program, and they will take that out of their reserves, which is very a healthy reserve fund. And then the last one we talked about back in November, that when you created the enterprise fund for the campground, we would have to do a supplemental appropriation budget to give them the budget authority after the beginning of the year. And so that's what this is doing. It's not adding any cash into that fund. Those expenses that are listed in Nate's staff report still have to come from the revenue generated from the campground, but we have to put the budget numbers in so they're not, so they have some direction on what they have authority to spend, I guess.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next is the first reading of ordinance number O 2017-07, an ordinance of the City of Mitchell, Davidson County, South Dakota, that changes the zoning district classification of the real property legally described as Block 2, Block 3, Block 7, Block 8, and Block 9 of JCM, Second Edition, in portions of Michael Avon, Livesay Lane, and Jamaica Street in the northwest quarter of Section 32, T104 North, R60 west of the 5th PM, City of Mitchell, Davidson County, South Dakota, from Urban Development District, UD, to a Planned Unit Development District known as CJM, Second Edition, Planned Development District Number 2, and changing the official zoning map accordingly.
Okay. You may recall, so some time ago, you had an annexation of this property. This is just north of the Anthony Avenue project in there, so this is going further north. I believe there might be a aerial map showing you where that is. Basically, what Mr. Macheski is proposing is rezoning that portion that's highlighted in the green from its current zoning of urban development district to planned development district, which is basically what that does is it sets up its own unique district, which for its own particular uses and its setbacks and so forth. Actually, the district or to the south is actually already in a planned development district, and so what he's proposing is this one be a mirror image of the first planned development district where you see at the Anthony Avenue, with only one exception is under item F5 where he talks about the keeping of animals. He wanted that in as part of his planned development district. Other than that, the rest of it is almost a mirror image of the district to the south. Again, this is like a rezoning hearing, so he's here if you've got more particular questions of this. Again, this property is in the city limits at this point.
What differences really are between the two zoning, from what it currently is to what it will be? What are the differences?
the difference from an urban development district more specifically. Well, urban development has a lot of other uses, such as you could have possibly agriculture taking place in there. You could have all kinds of, some kinds of commercial activities and so forth. You could possibly have, you know, like an acreage or a farm or something of that nature. My understanding is what he would like this is more of a residential kind of area, however, with larger lots and that kind of thing. And so, as again, you would see the permitted uses in here would only be single-family dwellings, storage building, and accessory uses, and that's it. And so, whereas in the urban development district, there's a lot of uses and conditional uses, so.
And
Was he add to the south? right?
Yep, yep. We did approve this with one, or the planning commission did hold its hearing and did recommend one thing, if you did notice it in the planning commission minutes, that the motion was this be approved on condition that there's a drainage study or drainage plan submitted and approved by the public works director. So that was one of the conditions and recommendations of the planning commission.
I'm starting to fade. What was this about the keeping of animals?
Yes, he does have one change on, right there, number 5. That is not in his existing planned development district. So
Yeah, I
that's
didn't
really
see
the only
that up there. I
difference.
was thinking no dogs or
No.
Just out of curiosity, since
I'll let
that's a
Chuck-
new thing that you've added, Chuck, do you have people in the other one that are keeping animals?
no, we're getting confused. This was to restrict the ability to have horses and cows and ducks, and we didn't say it in the first plan development. I'm jumping in the middle here. But I wanted to specifically say it in this one, that we don't want them. The city of Mitchell doesn't allow them either, and we're in the city of Mitchell. But when people move to something like this, this PD is what they should read, and we want them to know what we're up to ahead of time. And that was the only thing I wanted to add, was we don't want those kind of things in this plan development. So it's not to allow them, it's to disallow them ×2, because the city does too. I'm Chuck Mashesky, the developer up there. Don't know what's wrong, I'm not afraid of you. But we've been early in the agenda, and we've been late in the agenda, and we're just happy to be on the agenda. So backing up a little bit, in 2003, we did a plan development up there. Neil alluded to it. It's south of this one. And I think the biggest things, as a developer, we try to look at what the market might need, and I don't think this is being seen in the community. This ability of the consumer to have something for $15,000 or $20,000 to start their home, buy a lot. These lots are almost an acre, and some other of our developments or somebody else's might be a fifth that size for twice that money. So for $15,000 or $18,000, you get 3/4 of an acre, and it's a nice start to a tight budget. So we would refer to it as first-time home buyer type stuff. And the other one is sold out. It took 14 years, but it's sold out. And so we think we're attacking the tight budget, low entry cost, trying to reduce what is needed to make it expensive. I'm starting to do some calculations on this, and we're up about 3 times in 14 years what we spent on roads and water pipe. Our first water pipe was about $12, now it's $36 a foot. And so it'll be hard for us to keep these attractive prices, but that's what we're fighting to do. And we might be back with some help on how to do it. But anyway, we're trying to attack for the market need of a low budget place. I don't think that we're changing anything except this animal thing. So we just want to do again what we did before.
That's good, thank you.
if I don't talk, you might get out of here before 10 o'clock, so.
I would make a motion to.
Well, Bev, I think you want to hear this.
Yeah,
so.
please let Tim talk.
Excuse me. I thought you were just saying if I don't talk, you
No.
might get out of here.
Well, there were 2 parts of this that I was concerned about. And I
Okay.
think you deserve to hear what they are. First of all, we're putting a cluster of septic tanks in this area above the lake. And I was concerned about that, and even though over the years, almost every state law in the country is about 100 feet from a lake. The city of Mitchell is 350 feet. But I never really understood whether they considered a cluster of 20 or 40 homes, all with septic tanks this far from the lake. The nearest part of this development to the lake is about 1,300 feet. And I did discuss the septic tanks with FIRA and explain how far they were and that it was a cluster and how big the lots are. And they didn't seem concerned. They said, even though we don't know the soil conditions, which by the way are very sandy and good for a septic, and the slopes, we think 1,300 feet is a great plenty distance away from the lake. So FIRA is not concerned about that. And the other thing I was concerned about was the drainage plan, and looked at the map, which is behind you, Bev, on the wall. I had that up there for Planning Commission. We did ask for a better drainage plan, so that's why that is being asked in your motion, that you approve it subject to a drainage plan.
And we're all for all of that, particularly the second one. We have elevations, and we've had them for the whole quarter there, and I've talked to Tim about them, but we'll provide Tim from SPN what would be an improved plan, so we're for that. We want it to drain. It's very sandy. We have never had a problem in the existing one, but we'll get some elevations that will please Tim and do a drainage plan for the roads prior to doing them.
Okay, Tim, I just want to double check with you then. As I understand, there is neither FIRA nor you then have a problem with where we're at with this. And the only thing that you would want stated then with this is that upon approval of the drainage plan.
Correct.
I make that as my motion then.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Adjourned.